Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka now says he never left the Azimio La Umoja One Kenya Alliance despite having announced his exit after the coalition's presidential candidate Raila Odinga picked Kenya leader Martha Karua as his running mate. The Wiper leader said he had over 300 religious men and women praying with him as he paraded 5 bishops and pastors at the meeting. Musyoka termed his exit as a mere
we form the next government. I would also wish to congratulate my learned sister, the Honorable Mother Wangari Karua, Senior Counsel, on her nomination as the Deputy President nominee of Azimio La Umoja One Kenya Coalition.
The Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission has dismissed reports that 1 million names of registered voters have been removed from the register to aid a plot of rigging. The Commission's chairperson, Ofula Chebukati, assured that no data has been lost in the voters' register, saying the vote in question are of those who requested transfers. Deputy President William Ruto, who is one of the leading contenders in the August polls, had raised concerns that voters from each stronghold had their names missing in the official register. In a meeting with the European Commission, Ruto warned that there were deliberate attempts to remove the names of his supporters from the register. And the Independent Election Boundaries Commission is expected to take relevant action against 241 candidates blacklisted by the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission over integrity issues. The Electoral Board's chairperson, Ofula Chebukati, stated that they will strictly follow the law in the ongoing clearance of candidates in the 6 elective seats and give a comprehensive statement on the matter.
The Commission will retreat and look at the report. We shall, of course, look at the report. It's the Commission that wrote to EACC and forwarded the names of the candidates. And the information from EACC is information that we asked. So we shall look at it and then make a statement on the way forward.
The poll body has been vetting and clearing candidates since May 29th until June 7th, who will be gazetted to vying the August 9th elections. Chebukati indicated that candidates who have pending appeals in court will not be barred from the polls. He further defended the move to clear Sirisia MP John Wakholuke, who has been convicted of 3 counts of corruption. And Kirinyaga Governor Anne Waiguru has reaffirmed her innocence, dismissing a new push to block her re-election bid over integrity as a witch hunt by officials in the office of the president. Waiguru said what the said officials are allowed to exercise their own discretion on prosecutions and determination of such cases, her fate would be a foregone conclusion. The first-term governor seeking to retain her seat of Deputy President William Ruto's United Democratic Alliance was making reference to the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, which published a list of 241 politicians it considers unfit to hold public office. And 3 people died on the spot while another was pronounced dead at a local hospital after sustaining gunshot wounds in a standoff between police officers drawn from the elite GSU police unit and protesters. Makindu Hospital confirmed the 4 deaths, adding some 6 other people had sustained injuries of varying degree. The police unit was deployed to quell protesters at Masimba along the busy Nairobi-Mombasa highway. Aggrieved residents barricaded the road for hours, cutting off the transport corridor to express displeasure with national administration over unresolved human-wildlife conflict in the area that had resulted in 8 deaths within 3 months, the latest victim being a teacher who was killed a week earlier. And President Uhuru Kenyatta held talks with Swedish Prime Minister Magdalena Andersson focused on mitigating the challenges of climate change, especially in developing countries. At a meeting held on the margins of the Stockholm Plus 50 in the Swedish capital, President Kenyatta and Prime Minister Andersson agreed on the need for concerted efforts to address the triple planetary crises of climate change, pollution, and biodiversity loss. President Kenyatta pointed out that developing countries are most affected by the negative effects of climate change, citing the example of Kenya, which has experienced drought for 4 consecutive years. The president emphasized that the time to act is now before things get out of control. This is Newswire. Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
The following takes place between 6 a.m. and 10 a.m.
You know, when you see someone being jailed, a governor or two or someone who stole, then people will fear. Because our problem is not the borrowing, it's the stealing.
We've become actually a nation of thieves. The only thing we lack is an opportunity to steal.
The guys who quote the Bible and say I'm a Christian and all that, and you know they're thieves. Return what you have stolen 4 times. If you know that you have property or anything that you have stolen, just return and say, my God does not allow me to hold stolen things.
We are also a reflection of you, because you elect us. You know, we don't get into our office by ourselves. We are a reflection of the people who elect us.
We don't want to go to the streets. We have a constitution that enables us to assert our will.
When the legislature have now been taken as hostage by the executive for whatever reason, we are now bound by what they want us to do.
This is just outside the realms of reality. We have impunity written into the DNA of our political class.
How old were you when you learned that Jeshi Lokop is Jeshi Lawoko?
I can't say it very well. No,
and everyone knows.
Okay. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
At the tail end of the week, and what do we have in store today? It doesn't look like too much going on in terms of traffic, at least not at this hour. We'll keep an eye on things and see how they develop into Friday, going into the first weekend of June. So what's happening? Coming off the Thika Superhighway, we're already seeing that traffic is building up just a tad here and there as you get towards the Pangani underpass. But again, this is manageable. Jogger Road, building up as you get towards the city, out towards Landis, and then we'll see a build up as you go then towards Haile Selassie. Coming off Mombasa Road looks pretty good. Langata Road is starting to build up as you get towards the interchange. We'll see that construction continue during the day, and that will lead to a build up of traffic. Going towards the Eastern Bypass as well, seeing some traffic as you then come off of a North Airport Road. Let's keep an eye on things a few minutes after 6 o'clock. See what happens. Half an hour. Talk to us on SpiceFM. KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
SpiceFM, Nakuru. This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down.
Yes, it is.
This
9 minutes
is
after
the
6.
Situation
How are you
Room,
doing? Happy
the
Friday.
only way
It's
to
the third
start
day of the month, 2022. Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation. Eric Ndu and our guest host Wanjiro Gekonyo. She's back. Wanjiro,
Yes.
how are you?
I am very well.
Hey, it's good to see you.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
It's been a minute.
Yes.
Lots going on, lots happening.
Where did you go to?
Yeah, Maisha.
You did a
As
good job.
they
So
say-
Kalonzo is back. Thanks to you.
What has that got to do with me?
Is that not where you are?
That is what rumor mongering, that's where it starts.
Yeah.
Yes, I've been minding my own business, doing my own thing, keeping well, lying low. Yes, being polite, as is my usual style.
Lying low and being polite. City is shocked.
In which order?
Is it in that order? Lying low, being polite, minding my own business. If I insist. But I'm
okay.
well. I'm
You're
happy
well?
to be here.
Very good.
I've missed you guys.
We missed you too.
Yes.
Welcome. City. Mambo namna gani?
Fit.
Yeah. Kopoa, huh?
Fit.
Good.
Bam bam.
Kabisa.
Yes.
Ni Friday.
Hey. At last. I didn't want to think about it.
Yeah.
Because this week, this has been a long week. It's been a really, really long week.
Yeah. This week and last week. But Ndu just felt like it was just Monday, just the other day, right?
Really?
Huh?
But Ndu is looking as though she's still on Wednesday.
How does that look exactly?
Fresh.
Public holiday.
Tired.
Ndu, take heart.
That what happened?
It's a Friday.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yes. Don't
I'm still in the land of butterflies and fairies.
Be happy. Life is good.
You know that guy committed suicide, right?
Yeah.
Eric, how are you?
Eddie McFadden.
Yep.
Si walimroga. Don't worry.
Offed himself, man. He offed himself.
When?
Be happy.
Not too long after he released that song, actually.
Which means he wasn't very happy.
No, he wasn't.
Don't worry, be happy.
Which is why he sang the song. Art comes from a very painful place. Do not judge.
Oh, no. I'm not judging. I am actually wondering what it is that fellow was going through and what he was grappling with and why he got to the point of deciding enough is enough.
May have been, he was depressed.
Yes.
He had it for a long time. He was battling it. He never got to deal with it.
I'm not sure I'll ever listen to that song the same way again.
Yeah.
I'm not
Don't
sure I needed
worry.
that bit of information.
Don't
this
worry,
morning,
be
but-
happy. Well, let me tell you what's going to be happening on the show
First of all,
today.
Don't be like a goat.
He asked me and
How
I
are
said
you?
I'm fine.
I didn't ask. I'm asking.
Very
What's the problem?
good.
How are you?
I am very fine.
Very
Ndu, how are you?
Very well.
Thank you very
The
much.
Aluta can continue.
In this country, someone asks you, how are you? You must ask, how are you? Okay.
Oh, in this
How are you?
country?
I'm fine. How are you?
Yes. Yes.
Even if you've been asked 17 times.
And the correct response is I'm fine.
It is.
Nobody really wants to know how you're doing.
Not really.
no.
And
It's like
especially if
saying
you're having a
hi.
hard time, we don't really want to know.
No, you don't want the
So just
details,
say,
do you?
I'm fine, thank you.
And we move on.
Yes.
See, it once as a story.
No, unajua jana.
Oh, yes. By the way, I'm so glad you asked.
You'll be given this look of Nani.
Can we do this later? In a bit of a hurry.
I'm busy.
Ilikuwa tu salamu. Okay.
Interesting.
So we have a packed show today. At 7 a.m., we are having our justice conversation today. Jackie Oyuyo Gethinji is the chairperson of the Nairobi Center for International Arbitration. We'll be talking about alternative dispute resolution. Arbitration is one of them. We've been looking at court-mediated and court... it's called what?
What?
Court-sanctioned mediation.
Yes.
Yep. Mediation is a big thing. And the International Arbitration, Center for International Arbitration, Nairobi chapter, is very active, and Jackie Oyuyo will be here with us. How arbitration works as a dispute resolution mechanism, 7 a.m. That's the conversation. At 8 o'clock, we look at the elections that are forthcoming. And we've been having this conversation. Should people who have questionable character or questionable integrity be allowed to get to the ballot? This is a question we've asked of the IEBC, the EACC, the DPP, the Chief Justice, the Transparency International Kenya chapter Executive Director Sheila Masinda will be with us at 8 o'clock to have this conversation. They plus the Institute for Social Accountability, where Wanjiru Gekonyo plies her trade.
Politely.
Lying low. Have launched a campaign called the Red Card Campaign, where they are naming and shaming and saying, don't go to the ballot, or let everybody know that there's an issue.
We are not naming and shaming. We are simply pointing out and emphasizing.
Connie, what is the difference?
No, naming and shaming has a negative connotation. What we are saying, this is chapter 6. These are elections. The two should go together, not separate.
Right. So, Red Card Campaign, we'll talk about it at 8 o'clock. And then at 9, we look at Kiambu. Kiambu has how many people who want to be governor? Kunja Kidole. When I say, you say one. William Kabogo. You say one.
One. Oh. Yes, teacher.
The incumbent
Yes,
governor
teacher.
is called Dr. Nyoro.
Nyoro.
2, right? Moses Kuria.
3.
3. The current senator, Wamatangi.
4.
The MP for Thika, Django, Wainaina Django.
5.
There's a lady called Gatabaki, David Day's wife. Sigis.
What about their collective father?
Their collective father. Now he has no money to campaign.
Baba Yao.
They've taken everything. The quarters of
no,
yesterday has taken
he's been amechujwa. Red card imewak. Unfortunately, had a Peter red card test.
Bado. So William Kabogo, who is the party leader
6.
of that party, is called what? Tujibebe wa Kenya.
You will forgive me. You know, sisi kwa wote bado tunangojea. You know, these parties are so many.
You were talking about a party title. Oh Lord.
Tujibebe wa Kenya.
Me, I actually get confused. Yes.
There's a song.
You know, it's because
there's a song.
That of Tujibebe.
Diamond Platinums. It's a very good title. You know, you need to resonate with.
You know, I'm having a very difficult time consolidating that you have said Diamond Platinum and there's a song.
She can even sing the song.
Hey, I can give you dance moves if you want to do. Please. Like
they need to start
like
again.
This, then you do like this. So, with that title.
Is it Groundhog Day? Do we need to go back to sleep and wake up?
Picture a stadium. It's over. Kura zinatoka.
I can't.
So, you know, this is interesting.
This is called politeness and minding one's own business.
And lying low.
And lying low.
Lying low. Shake that
My name is Ndu. Nice to meet you.
So this particular gentleman who hails from Tanzania, the multiple gemstones. So him.
If you do not know the culture,
I know the name
of Diamond Platinums in Kenya, you are disconnected from reality.
Then me, I'm disconnected.
If he was to run for president, I hazard to say he would win.
He would beat
if he was eligible. Yes, he would beat Sonko. He competes.
You know why I'm saying this? Because if there's one man who seems to have the art of appealing to the voter, it is Mike Mbuvi Sonko. Now, the other issues you can discuss later.
Yes.
But you're talking about appeal.
Yes.
Akonayo.
No, Akonayo. Rockstar status.
Completely.
He can mess up Nairobi.
Anyway, let's
and go and convince Mombasa.
Let's hear about COVID and how COVID is doing.
Rockstar status.
Right? Just give us the country statistics. Jibebe, tafadhali.
100 new cases in Kenya. The positivity rate has doubled in the last 9 weeks, 5.7. Now, look at the sample size, 1,759, 100 cases. We're looking at easily a tenth. A lot more than a tenth.
What's the status of these cases?
Not good numbers, because, again, looking at the status of these cases, 60% are those who have presented themselves to hospital for treatment with symptoms. It's tipped the scales, because just a couple of weeks ago, we're looking at people who had to get tests as of necessity for either travel or certification. And that is when they were finding, all right, they had COVID, but they didn't necessarily have any symptoms. Now, these cases that we are finding are symptomatic
cases.
Okay? So it is an issue, and the call continues to be, if you have not been vaccinated, please go get vaccinated. If you received your first vaccine, go get the second one. If you have gotten both, go get boosted.
Hey.
It's
That's
not
the
about
call.
to end. That's it. That's it right now. There's no big English, no long story. Just go get it done.
Okay. Live streaming the show on SpiceFM KE, Facebook and YouTube. If you're online, say hello. Say hello to Wanjiru. Sing a Diamond Platinum song. She'll be happy.
I can't.
I'll dance along.
It's 20 minutes after 6.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Forgiveness is always conditional. Even before God, there's nothing like unconditional forgiveness.
Government doesn't pay you pension until you retire. In fact, they have no money for you. The day you retire, they look for it.
This country is punishing many young people. These young people are more susceptible to be deceived, to be taken advantage of, and they're more susceptible to be bought off.
Let us also talk about where we want our country to go. You know, we are a population of very young people.
We're in a state of capture. The judiciary is under duress. Parliament is in the pocket of the executive. You don't sit and wait for the regime to topple itself. It will never do so.
By the way, let me tell you, these guys are so persuasive. I'm telling you, they can persuade you to sell your grandmother. I'm telling you, they can sell sand in the desert.
City, has anybody on this program said to you as a guest, say, "Oh, shut up, we don't want to be told what to do"? Has you ever that kind of... Has anybody been
Listen, I will not listen.
bit of advice?
turn my deaf
Because you're
ear.
working on the premise that we should all pay heed to these proverbs. It's a very suspect notion.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your
Cloudy
day.
conditions in Nairobi this morning at 15, highs of 24 and lows of 13. At 14, it's cloudy in Nakuru. We'll see highs of 24 and lows of 12. 15 degrees and mostly cloudy in Nyeri, highs of 22 and lows of 12. And at 10 degrees, Eldoret is clear, and we'll see highs of 25 and lows of 10 going into Friday. It's raining in Mombasa at 26, highs of 28 and lows of 23. And at 27, rain showers through Malindi, highs of 28 and lows of 25. 17 degrees and clear in Kisumu, highs of 28, and we'll see highs of 27 in Kakamega, where it's currently mostly clear at 15. 17 degrees and partly cloudy conditions in Kampala, highs of 26 and lows of 17. And at 23, clear conditions in Dar es Salaam, we'll see highs of 30 and lows of 22. It's 7 degrees and clear in Johannesburg, we'll see highs of 17 and lows of 5. Lagos will experience highs of 32 and a mostly cloudy morning, currently at 27. And at 23, it's clear in Kinshasa, highs of 32. Looking into Beijing, it's sunny at 29 going into Friday afternoon, highs of 36 today and lows of 21. Paris is clear at 14, highs of 25. 22 will be the high in London, where it's currently clear at 11, and it's currently 20 degrees and cloudy in New York Thursday night. Coming into Friday, we'll see highs of 25 and lows of 19.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings.
Okay, 22 minutes of the
94
Sky, good morning. He says it's Friday. Wow. Tuned in from Birunda, that's where Willie is, and tuning from Doha. Olimwai is listening as well. Ed Gitonga, good morning, people. Ed is back. I feel like there's a cartoon named Ed. It's Ed, and Eddie, right? Yeah, something like that. Okay. Good morning, Ed. Amos Freeman, good morning. Kimmy Lily is tuned in. The sound is soft and sweet. Okay, good morning. Robert Mbogo says tune in from Mombasa. Kakamega, Evans and Clyde are both in Kakamega. And Bondo is where Newton Angomia is this morning. Berin says, good to see you guys. Tuning from Siaya County. That's where Jose Kevin is, and says, good morning. Kipkwech is in Dubai. Omonia is in Rarieda sub-county. And Moipe is in Nyeri County. And William,
Moiga.
thank you. William Mukongo is tuned in this morning. And he says, Salimia Madam Gikonyo.
Oh, nimesalimika.
Salimika.
Yes.
Rachel Amari tuned in this morning. Good to be in the studio with you. Eddie Odor says, good morning. Friday greetings from my village. My farm help reckons, Eddie, that a cat that eats a pregnant rat has no future.
Right. Makes a lot of sense.
Wow.
Who, the rat or the cat?
No, the proverb.
The proverb. Okay.
City, take note.
I've taken note.
Competition.
Serious, actually. In fact, I feel like I've been overtaken.
You feel, right?
You zapping.
A cat that eats a pregnant rat has no future.
That's a very good one.
That is, if we take the view that the future of a cat is determined by how many rats it catches.
Indeed.
True.
So if you catch the future rats, you become
You're
jobless.
finished your future.
You're done.
You become jobless.
This is Sir Haron is tuning from Kisumu and from Doha. That's where Washira is. There's so many more people online this morning. Thanks for joining. Sean, Jeffrey, Yobesh, Balozi, Arthur. Good morning to you all and thanks for joining us.
Everybody, Karibu City. Today is Friday, but you want us to get out of Zanzibar on
Yes,
last day of the week?
we are the Comoros.
Ah, okay.
One island to the other.
Visiwa vya Komora.
Ndio hivyo. This is a proverb that targets men specifically, men who are anticipating marriage. You can win a woman with lies, but you cannot feed her with lies.
You can win a woman
with lies,
but
you cannot feed her.
But you
with
cannot
lies.
feed her with lies.
Yes.
All right.
City, you knew I was coming. You have a proverb after my own heart. This is to all those men out there peddling misrepresentations of themselves.
They do it all the time.
Yes.
all the time.
Right.
You can win a woman with lies.
Oh, definitely.
But you cannot feed her with lies.
No, that's a bit difficult.
This also applies to our political leaders who are wooing us voters with mega lies.
Constantly. All right. Let's look at the newspaper headlines. www.standardmedia.co.ke. That is where you come to get all the premium content, including text, audio, visual content. What they're promoting now is some strong story. Kalonzo. Is he a political turncoat or master tactician? The move to rejoin Azimio adds tantalizing twists to the high-stakes race. It's some analysis on Kalonzo Musyoka's move and the strategy that he appears to be deploying. Okay? www.standardmedia.co.ke. Top headline.
So I know there's a lot going on. Politics, I know there's an election, blah, 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 right?
Yada, yada,
But there was something that happened yesterday, and 4 have been killed in protests against wildlife conflicts. This happened yesterday morning and then continued through the day. What started out as a peaceful protest over human-wildlife conflict along the Mombasa-Nairobi highway yesterday morning escalated into chaos that left 4 people dead. Makueni Senator Mutula Kilonzo Jr. ran into the demonstrators who had blocked the major highway and scraped through by a whisker. I quote, "I ran into violent demonstrations at Masimba. 2 stones directed at me missed narrowly. Motorists should exercise caution." This is what he posted on social media around midday, attaching photos of his car's smashed windows. From early morning, hundreds of residents armed with spears and other crude weapons closed the highway. The protests caused a major traffic snarl-up, with police taking hours to intervene. They were protesting against runaway human-wildlife conflict. Resident Raphael Soantet told the Standard that the unrest came after a local teacher in Mashuru sub-county was killed by an elephant. Before that, many other incidents that had been reported to local authorities. Sources said when officers arrived, they came in large numbers since the residents had overpowered police from Masimba Post. During the chaos, 3 people were shot dead on the spot. 4 others were rushed to the Makindu Sub-County Hospital in critical condition. According to the hospital's medical superintendent, Dr. David Kasanga, one of the 4 people with gunshot wounds died on arrival. We have received 3 bodies at the morgue from the scene. However, 1 person died at our casualty section. According to the hospital management, among the remaining 3 seriously injured is a Kenya Defense Forces officer stationed at the Kawa Barracks. Meanwhile,
Barracks.
Yeah, he was stationed at the Kawa Barracks, but he now was, here for this.
So he's either among the protesters
or the security forces that were sent to quell the situation.
Can't have been.
Well, we don't know.
He's KDF from Kawa Barracks.
Residents of parts of Mwatate in Taita Taveta County said they're living in fear as elephants invade homesteads. So this protest instituted to say, look, can we do something about this?
It's basically because elephants are raiding people's farms in Mashuru.
Mm-hmm.
And then they've crossed over all that area. So Masimba is this place. After you leave Emali heading towards Machakos, before you get to Hunter's Lodge, that area, Masimba. And then you from Hunter's Lodge, you get into a place called Kiboko, the Kataon, go on towards Makindu. So this is where the people are protesting.
Yes. So they've said the elephants that are breaking out of their 28,000-acre Taita Hills and Salt Lake sanctuary habitats have been causing massive destruction to property and crops. So they've been breaking out of the conservancy area. Residents spoke and said they were forced to return to their houses early to avoid possible attacks by animals, which are more active when night falls or early in the morning. The elephants have also stalled discharge of services at the Bura Chief's office, where they have been camping, and learning has also been affected as students have had to keep away from school.
And this is far in Bura now, that state of it. Yeesh. Okay.
Tough one.
It's a tough one, especially the fact that it gets to a point where people are shot, directly shot dead.
And killed. Yeah.
By the time the people are protesting coming on to the roads, is because they wanted this issue to be highlighted, to become a mainstream news, so everybody knows that this is what's happening. They have obviously dealt with it at local level, local administration. The chief must have been aware of it. The local KWS, of course, is aware, right? They know what is happening because, obviously, of pasture, no rains, in these areas, the animals are going to get out. So, did it have to get to a point where people are actually coming out?
It never does. It never needs to. It really doesn't.
And those things are crazy. They enter your farm like this.
That's it.
They come out. Forget it.
There's no farm.
Forget it. You're done. You're done. It's livelihoods. We're talking about now everything else we talk about. So what is it that people do? Food, school fees, everything.
And all those three have been affected by this.
Gone.
Yeah.
So what does KWS do in this case, and what is the responsibility of the conservancy as well towards the surrounding villages?
I think the whole issue here is the maintenance of migratory corridors, right?
Mm-hmm.
For example, I'll give you the direct experience that I've had with the Kimana Conservancy. So there's a conservancy called Kimana Conservancy that now links a migratory corridor from Amboseli that goes into these ones, the Taita and Chulu. So the animals, the elephants particularly, crossing over from one to the other, would of course stray and enter people's farms. They did a fence.
But they're not straying, really. They're on their corridor.
They're on their corridor, but then, of course, there's food there. I mean, corridor is dry. People are
here.
Yeah. So they'll stray into the farms. They did a fence to basically just do the corridor, and now there's peace. That electric fence.
Remember,
so animals are crossing from one end to the other without having to stray because they're
in the Abadeas. Remember, there was a perennial problem of a similar nature.
Yep.
And then there was that project, the Rhino Ark, the fencing project. Now, it took time, but it gave rise to Rhino Charge and what have you. But the net result was, for a long time, there was harmony. But this discussion actually has some furtherance to it. This issue of human-animal conflict and how to manage it, it's a subject that must be addressed seriously. And it has been argued that among the things that must be done, the local communities must see and understand the animals as a benefit, a net benefit to them, something that adds to their welfare and well-being.
Yep.
So they become protectors of it. But they have to be involved in these processes that we're talking about here.
And you've got to support them.
Yeah. Yes.
Because they have no issue with the elephant if the elephant has no
the elephant
issue
does
with
its
them.
own thing and doesn't eat their maize.
Exactly.
Yes.
Anyway, let's take this quick break. 27 minutes to 7. Let's take a look at traffic.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM.
At KTN Home, we are all about the action, so you can enjoy unstoppable, unbeatable, unrivaled, unmatched movies from Hollywood. Get your popcorn ready. Tune in to KTN Home and buckle up to experience a new world of entertainment from the comfort of your living room. Tune in to KTN Home every Monday to Thursday plus Sundays and catch Hollywood's finest movies from 10 p.m. for the time of your life.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM.
Are you a recruiter looking for the ideal candidate? What if we told you there's an easier, faster, and unbiased way to hire? Forget all the time wasting and costly hiring mistakes and instead focus on reviewing the best suited candidates from the start. Sounds good, right? We offer you a seamless recruitment portal and access to our thousands of job seeker profiles to suit your hiring needs. In just a few clicks, you will be able to select the best candidates ranked by real data. Sign up today by visiting jobs.digga.co.ke and start your journey to efficient and effective hiring.
Feel the roar!
All right, traffic starts with a bang this morning, and a really messy accident taking place on the Thika superhighway near the Withethye area. Accident involved a matatu and a personal vehicle, but police are on the scene trying to control the really heavy traffic jam. It doesn't look good at all, and that has really messed things up today. So now we're looking at traffic at a standstill, bumper to bumper, at Ndarugo this morning. Does not look good. Let's look at other parts of the city as this builds up, going then closer and closer to 7 o'clock. There's traffic that started on Manyanja Road, and this is spilling over to Outer Ring as well. Coming off Langata Road, that is already building up. Jogo Road is doing its thing as you get then towards Landis at the stadium roundabouts. Mombasa Road looks pretty good. There's an option for you to use getting into the city. Outer Ring already creeping into traffic all the way to the Thika superhighway. Let's keep an eye on things, especially the Thika Road situation. Talk to us on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127. Let's keep things moving this Friday.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
23 minutes to 7. You know, what story are you underlining?
Mornings done right.
I've got a couple that are interesting. One being the IEBC debt register story, where civil society and political parties have questioned whether KPMG was given access to the original register.
You said debt register.
I
your
said
mind
debt.
are in finance. Your mind, yes,
Did I
you
say
said debt.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, Freudian slip. We need to audit that one as well. But yes, we're talking about the voter register. So the IBC is facing the perennial question. Is it perennial if it happens every 5 years? But yes, the perennial question of its preparedness, which has dogged the current and previous electoral agencies in past elections. And the IEBC is unable to shake off concerns about the credibility of the voters' register, with questions emerging over the accuracy of the ongoing audit by KPMG. Civil society organizations have queried whether the register under audit is in fact the original register, amid reports that KPMG had trouble accessing the same since it is reportedly in the custody of OT Morpho, which supplied election equipment to the IEBC in the previous election. In 2019, Parliament slapped a 10-year ban on the farm, and it has not been registered, as it had not been registered as a foreign company in Kenya, finding the farm in breach of the Companies Act. So the matter of the voters' register came up during a recent civil society, political parties, and representation from the judiciary. So the contention is that OP Morpho has the original register, and that reports suggest that the blacklisted company had not shared the original register of voters with the IBC and KPMG. There were claims that the commission was forced to manually upload details of the existing register. However, KPMG declined to comment, and the IBC has then said we await the gazettement and publication of the register, which is due on June 9th.
You know, first of all, I always take issue with wording and phrasing of some conversations. Raising issue whether it has a perennial issue of lack of preparedness for an election. IEBC has been conducting elections since 2017 in this country. It has demonstrated that it's prepared to conduct an election since 2017. It has used voter register since 2017 to conduct by-elections in this country. It has used the voter register to give political parties which have not complained when they were using the same register for nominations. So if Otimofo has a copy of the register and IEBC then went ahead and mirrored that register onto another whatever system they have, there's a register.
There's definitely a register. The question here is which register
The one
is
that
the IEBC using?
The one that IEBC is giving
Has been using for the
Yes.
by-elections.
The one that IEBC has been using all along, unless KPMG is saying we've been given 4 different registers and now we are confused which register we should be auditing. And
KPMG has not said anything.
Exactly.
The question has been raised, and it is good that it is in order that the question be raised. But as you point out, by-elections have been happening, and we had at a recent meeting, somebody actually commented that it's it's difficult to understand why there are regular reports of electronic malfunction, small issues that come out around by-elections that are not amplified and given the due importance. One is when you look at the digital technology, it has perennial problems during the elections and also in the
by-elections.
Even in the intervening periods. The small issues also with the previous elections where electronic equipment failed. So the point you're raising, I'm actually supporting your point that we tend to sweep under the carpet the small little malfunctions and misalignments of the by-elections instead of amplifying them there. And that this question indeed should have and would have been raised at that point. Maybe
my point
is the register of a by-election is a much smaller thing than the national register. But the issue has been raised.
My point is
it may be late.
Whichever parties are in this civil society, I doubt their sincerity. I'm questioning the intention.
You can question.
Because when you do that, when you start planting that seed of doubt, of lack of credibility on the electoral management body, 60 days, 70 days, close to an election, you are already priming a conversation.
You're fomenting unnecessary strife.
And there's nothing that they are coming to say, this is the register, and this is the other register, and this is the difference between this register and the other.
Yes, but the IEBC on its part has not done itself any favors, while recognizing that it wasn't fully constituted for the longest while, and that this impeded some of its, some of its functions, while recognizing that the framework for managing the elections was set up earlier this year, while recognizing all those limitations that, of course, have impeded its ability to do the election, to commence election preparedness before the election period is upon us. While recognizing all of that, I think IEBC has not done itself favors. For instance, the technology to be used has not been disclosed. The compliance with the issues raised during the Supreme Court, the annulment of the previous election, not been updated. They haven't come out clearly. So questions arise. It's like the SGR contract, like we were saying. Maybe there's nothing more in the contract. Everything to be known is already in the public domain. But the fact that it's not disclosed, so the IEBC has not done itself any favors it has failed to get ahead of its own calendar.
I will speak for the IEBC. The IEBC has gone to Parliament with recommendations, with reports, with amendments to bills. Parliament has pussyfooted on all those issues. IEBC has been pushing for, regulations on campaign financing. Parliament has pussyfooted on that. IEBC has gone to Parliament with amendments to the Elections Act. Parliament has pussyfooted on that. Those issues, IEBC has been doing what it should be doing. But IEBC is not the ultimate say on these things.
In other words, you're supporting my point that there could be electoral gaps, and what you are then saying is that the fault might not be entirely IEBC's.
Yeah.
There's the failure of Parliament.
Yeah.
There's also partisanship in the IEBC.
There are always gaps.
Yes.
There'll never be a day when there are no gaps. The question should be, are these... Yes, exactly.
Are they big enough to determine or to interfere with the will of the people?
Yes. And the answer
if they haven't interfered with the will of the people in all those by-elections, where we've elected members of parliament, senators and all. Surely.
Well, that's not really a very sound argument if you look at the track record. It really isn't.
What?
It's actually, that's quite an irrational argument. Let me explain why. With examples. With examples. We had by-elections between 2013 and 2017.
Yes.
And 2017 still happened.
What happened?
Oh, okay.
What
we
happened?
had a contested election and an annulled election because of
1,800 elections. One was nullified.
Yes.
Out of all of those.
Yes.
Only the presidential one.
Yes.
The small detail of the presidential election being annulled.
And it was because
totally
of what?
destroys your argument and shows its irrationality.
And it is because of what? It is because of the issue of transmission. Not because of the register. Not because of managing the day of the election, not because of managing the counting. It is because of the lack of clarity on the process of transmission.
That's it.
Actually, the manipulation of. So, how do you get ahead of these issues? You raise the questions. And so I think it is in order for questions to be raised where there is the likelihood of a doubt that there may have been manual inputting of voter registered details a month to the audit of the voter register. It sounds unlikely, but it's good to raise questions.
How a civil society wakuja na details pia wao.
Yes.
Kazi yetu ni kuuliza maswali.
In fact, wakuja na register.
Wakuja na register. Watuambie this is the problem with the register.
The onus is on the state.
This is the real register. Hii ingine ambapo naonyeshwa
hii ni mbovu.
Hii ni mbovu. You know, you have an extremely valid point. You see, we sometimes take to bashing IEBC on matters that they have zero control over. If a gadget fails to function, it fails to function. These things do that. For instance, anybody who has a phone knows it hangs. Does it warn you it's going to hang? No, you know it has hanged when it has hanged. Then you reboot it.
City, please don't say that.
No, I am saying that because of one thing. The extremity of this argument, I am countering that extremity. Where anything going wrong, it is IEBC. Look, IEBC has an administrative arm that functions every single day, even if the board is not duly constituted. They've been functioning. Their life has gone on. Yes, we included more commissioners, the members of the board. What do they call them? They're called commissioners, aren't they? Yes, precisely. Fine. So that particular body, the commission, is now constituted. Are you saying that it's the commissioners who run the elections? No, they don't.
They oversight.
Yes,
and they provide guidance.
Yes, they do. The people who run those offices on a day-to-day basis know exactly what to do. Exactly.
They do. But the issue is this. One is the legitimacy and the perception of impartiality and competence.
I agree.
You know, so that matters. So when a commission is not duly constituted, when the bylaws and the regulations are not enacted by Parliament, it then means we've come into the election period unprepared on some fundamentals.
I'm actually in agreement.
And so when you get questions like this is actually just demonstrating a lack of confidence. And I agree, it comes, very late into the process, but it is because of all those factors that then make somebody ask, do these people even have a register?
Yes. It comes unaccompanied with substance.
Yes.
If they were saying that the company that has been given the job of auditing has raised questions, then you'd amplify the auditor's questions. Fine. If they were saying that we have seen one register that was given to Wiper, which is looking like a different register that was given to Jubilee, so we have different registers, fine. If they were saying that since Otimorpho was blacklisted 5 years ago, IEBC has not been knowing who's registered as a voter and who's not. For example, I, civil society member, so-and-so, tried to check my details and he told me Otimorpho has your details. Fine. But now it's just, what?
No, you don't make an assumption. There may be somewhere it came from, but let us give IEBC the benefit of the doubt and wait for June 9th when they gazette.
Right. We're in agreement.
We're in agreement on that. But on the technology issue failing, that is a procurement issue. There is more to that.
Yeah.
Yes, the perennial failure of electronic equipment that has been procured at a public cost, that's a procurement issue and actually should be actionable. It's just that we have this attitude of accepting that technology will fail.
Sawa. City, what's in the business daily?
New alcohol SIM card taxes rock parliament.
Alcohol SIM card.
Taxes.
Alcohol,
on
SIM
alcohol and SIM card.
Oh.
What did you think?
They said new alcohol SIM card taxes.
You'd have gone for that one. SIM card, alcohol. How does that work? Okay. You press a button and alcohol appears.
And alcohol appears. The SIM card exists. It's called money. The Kenya shilling, you have it. You can get alcohol.
It's called money and a weekend.
Yes. Now, there's a gentleman who plies his trade in Parliament as he represents the constituency of Kikuyu. His name is Kimani Ishungwa.
Yeah.
Okay? With a W-A-H. Wah. Okay? Now, this gentleman had the following.
There's an apostrophe after the G, so it becomes Ishungwa.
Yes. Okay. Kimani. Okay? Now, one of the things that this man has brought to the fore is he has said, you know something, we need to increase exercise duty.
Hata hiyo.
That too.
Tuanze. Jibebe.
No running around in the morning without paying tax. Exercise duty. Excise duty on beer, wine and spirits by 20.2% and 25.6% respectively.
On what?
Yes. Increase excise duty on beer, wine and spirits. Alcoholic beverages. Notice, there is no excise duty on changa, on busa, and moratina. And easy too. Okay? Now, this is in opposition to the recommendation by the National Assembly, and I turn my pages as I read, Committee on Finance, which reversed the Treasury's proposal to raise alcohol taxes. We began a seesaw here, okay? Now, these, there's a political twist to this, and I'm avoiding it. I just want to deal with the issue here, okay? The proposal, if adopted, will see tax on 1 liter of beer. 1 liter of beer. Hey, goodness, that's 2 bottles of beer. Raised by 23.1% to 150 from the current 121. The 150, 121 are shillings. Okay? Which will increase the price of the bottle by 15 shillings. I thought that was obvious, but anyway. Mobile phone users seeking to replace or register afresh will pay more for the product, with the mobile telephony market a key target of raising billions of shillings in taxes. Presently, Safaricom charges 50 shillings for replacement of a fresh SIM card. Okay? Now, in short, this never-ending story of taxes being sought or money being sought through taxes, it never stops. Now, when you tax alcohol, why didn't they just tax cigarettes while they were at it? Alcohol.
They've done it.
They've done it, Okay, so this one was to follow. Arguably, it will raise money, because if I look at the multitude of individuals who like to pass their time while their time pleasurely by consuming these beverages, even if you raise the taxes, they're still going to consume those beverages.
Yeah. There was an issue, though, on the different products, alcoholic products. If it's beer, it's different from the spirits. So there's an issue of, well, how much tax was going up for spirits per liter, excise tax, and how much was going up for beer. Beer is more consumed, and then beer has the different categories of beer.
Of alcohol.
You raise the tax on beer, then you're pushing people into illicit alcohol. Because it becomes expensive, then now people start going to the illicit. And that's the reason why they even come up with less taxes on keg. So you can now encourage companies like KBL and others to come up with a keg product. Then now they started taxing that. What you're doing is you're basically pushing the people back into those moonshine stuff.
Precisely. Konyagi, waragi, those are variations of changa, which is a gin, in Tanzania, Uganda. In addition to what you're saying, why don't they just find ways and means of ensuring that these local spirits are legitimized? that you demand a certain standard of them so that they are produced in a manner that they are fit for human consumption. But you outlaw them, they are made, goodness, if you see the way those things are made and the places they are made in. Now, people will consume them because they want to consume them. So even as you lower the prices of something like beer, why don't you make these ones less poisonous? By introducing ways and means of ensuring that those who produce them are licensed, certain standards are expected of them, so that they become a product that you can buy off the shelf just like any other.
In fact, what you're speaking to, one, this pressure on tax, you know, as we discussed here, is due to debt, the deficit, need to raise money, possibly overtaxing, going beyond the ideal tax.
It's not possible. It is
definitely overtaxing.
Yes.
But then it's happening without a policy. So the questions you're asking are policy questions, where the government sits and thinks, let's emphasize on tax here because it has these health benefits, and you think it through. Unfortunately, the way we've been making our tax decisions is on the floor of the House, and is, based on
unpredictable.
It is unpredictable. Actually, it's unconstitutional because it's unpredictable. You give with one hand, take away with the other. I'll give an example. They're talking about this. Kimani Ichung'wah, former chair of the Budget and Appropriations Committee, knows his stuff. But there was also an article earlier this week or last week that airtime and call data tax collections fell by 19.8% last year on reduced use following the increment of excise duty from 15 to 20%. Because the Finance Act had raised this airtime tax. So already, KRA, by the way, in a report was saying that they've passed that threshold. Now, when people stop using the service, then the revenues fall. So you need to use data, you need to have a policy. What to say? I don't know at what point Kenyans will go out on the streets. That's the only thing left.
We are already on the streets.
We're out there.
Yes, but the problem is we're out there trying to make a living.
What we're doing on the streets is what the
is the point.
But we're already out there. Now, if you want us to acquire more hours in the day to be able to protest.
Hatuna, we are being worked to the bone. Yes.
In about a minute, there's an issue that has been highlighted in the Nation today. 2 pages, page 2 and page 3. And it was also highlighted by the president during his Madaraka Day speech. He said that the statistics from the last census of 2019 are indicating a rise in the number of single-parent households in this country. From 25% of households headed by a single parent in 2009, this number has shot up to a staggering 4 out of every 10, or 40% of households 3 years ago, according to data from the Kenya National Housing and Population Census of 2019. The president says, if unchecked, this trend could destroy the fundamental character of Kenya and wreak untold harm onto our most vulnerable and precious members, our children. He's urging media houses, religious leaders, community elders, and the concerned government agencies to step up to the plate and make sure that the Kenyan family remains strong. So Nation has looked at this and gone into great detail of understanding. So where are these single parent families coming from? There are very many in terms of teenage pregnancy, so somebody ends up unmarried, cases of domestic violence, cases of rape, and all. And then there are those very many people now who opt directly to get a child and not get married.
Indeed.
So they're raising the child by themselves. What is that doing to the fabric of the society? A good conversation to have one of these days.
Indeed.
Keep it here for more. Coming up in the next hour, we talk about arbitration and the role that arbitration plays in delivering justice to the country. We'll be joined by a guest in the studio to have this conversation with us. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room. This morning we have a guest host, Wanjiru Gekonyo, from the Institute for Social Accountability. Good morning. It's 7 a.m.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
Good morning, this is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka now says he never left the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya alliance despite having announced his exit after the coalition's presidential candidate Raila Odinga picked Kenya leader Martha Karua as his running mate. Musyoka termed his exit as a mere political vacation, which involved a time of reflection and prayer, which enabled him to have a clear mind on his political career. Musyoka dropped his presidential bid after accepting the chief cabinet secretary position offered by Odinga.
As a people, our true measure lies in our ability to discern when the nation is bigger than an individual. Therefore, after deep introspection, I've today deferred my dream to run for the President of the Republic of Kenya in the forthcoming general election. After wide consultation with the party leadership, the clergy, and the professionals, I've decided to accept with humility and appreciation my nomination as the Chief Minister in the Azimio One Kenya coalition.
He further went ahead to assure the Azimio team of his support as the country first approaches the August 9th general election.
I would also wish to congratulate my learned sister, the Honorable Mother Wangari Karua, Senior Counsel, on her nomination as the Deputy President nominee of Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition Party. And I want to assure Mother of my full and unequivocal support and that ticket of Raila Odinga, Mother Karua.
Now, the Independent Election Boundaries Commission has dismissed reports that 1 million names of registered voters have been removed from the register to aid a plot of rigging. The Commission's chairperson, Wafula Chebukati, assured that no data has been lost in the voters' register, saying the vote in question are of those who requested transfers.
So let's not talk about 1 million names missing. There's no such thing. It's not there. The 1 million names we are talking about are for those who applied for transfers, and we are undergoing the process of ensuring that the proper transfers are effected. Yes, there are cases where polling centers were degazetted because of the request by the owners of those institutions, and new polling centers were created, and that then would amount to a movement of the voters from that polling station to the center to the next center. But those are then aspects that will be made very clear to Kenyans.
Deputy President William Ruto, one of the leading contenders in the August polls, had raised concerns that voters from his stronghold had their names missing in the official register in a meeting with the European Commission. Ruto warned that there were deliberate attempts to remove the names of his supporters from the register.
That there was an attempt to obliterate names from the IEBC register, and so far, almost 800,000 names, about a million names have somehow disappeared from the register.
And the Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission is expected to take relevant action against 241 candidates blacklisted by the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission over integrity issues. The Electoral Board's chairperson Wafula Chebukati stated that they will strictly follow the law in the ongoing clearance of candidates in the 6 elective seats and gave a comprehensive statement on the matter. The poll body has been vetting and clearing candidates since May 29th until June 7th, who will be gazetted to vie in the August 9th elections. Chebukati indicated that candidates who have pending appeals in court will not be barred from the polls.
We shall look at that report in detail of the ESCC, and yes, we shall pick out some areas which then cause disqualification in the law, but where it doesn't affect candidates' qualification or disqualifications, then we shall treat it as such. Under Article 75 of the Constitution, those who have been impeached stay impeached, and we shall treat them as such. Those who have other matters convicted but having an appeal, the Commission follows the direction of Article 99(3) that as long as you have an appeal, of course, we cannot stop you from running, and I think that's why the returning officer in Sirisia cleared the gentleman you have talked about.
Now, Kirinyaga Governor Anne Waiguru has reaffirmed her innocence, dismissing a new push to block her re-election bid of integrity as a witch hunt by officials in the office of the president. Waiguru said, while the officials are allowed to exercise their own discretion on prosecutions and determination of such cases, her fate would be a foregone conclusion. The first-time governor seeking to retain her seat of Deputy President William Ruto's United Democratic Alliance was making reference to the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, which published a list of 241 politicians it considers unfit to hold public office. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
All right, a few minutes after 7 o'clock, and let's look at what's going on here on the Thika Superhighway. That accident that took place further ahead, at least they're trying to sort that out. Just at the Daragu junction there, a lot of caution as you're approaching that area, please. Police are at the scene, still trying to sort that out. That nasty accident that took place, really nasty one here. So that has brought traffic to a standstill coming off the Thika Superhighway this morning. And all we see at this point is red as you get then towards the Pangani underpass. You get some reprieve then going towards the city centre. Muranga Road not looking too bad right now. Kiambu Road is building up to have some traffic, bumper to bumper, in and outbound traffic, interestingly enough. Limu Road looks pretty good. Coming out of Westerns, not too much in terms of action. We'll keep an eye on that and see what's going on. Coming off of Langata Road, a little bit here and there. But manageable for now. Let's keep an eye on things. Mombasa Road looking really good. The Eastern Bypass is going to see a build-up as we go along through the morning. Let's talk on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up.
Good morning, and how are you doing? It's 8 minutes after 7. How are you? Happy Friday. If you're just joining the conversation, it's the second hour of the conversation on SpiceFM this morning. It's the third day of... We're still in March.
I thought we moved to June.
Has your power bill come down?
Right. Okay.
Where?
Yes.
The
year might
have you?
The year may never end. Let us hope for similar outcome to the expressway outcome.
You know, we could just be told, you know what, guys? Let's all agree. Power bills, let's talk about that next year. Then with that conversation, we can now move into June.
In fact, this is before or after the subsidy that they are talking about.
Wanjiru, you're confusing issues.
Many questions.
Don't introduce the word subsidy here. Subsidy for what? Fuel levy subsidy.
And power bill subsidy. So you first get taxed.
You know, there was a
then
bird.
that tax is used to subsidize the... I don't know how it
there was a
works.
prehistoric bird.
Bring money so that I can give you a subsidy.
Exactly. Oh, wow. Yes, that's the discussion.
Wewe lipa rent.
Halafu
nitakupatia pesa ya kulipa service charge.
Bas.
Hiyo ni subsidy.
Something like that.
Hiyo ni
Something like
subsidy.
that.
City.
Yes.
The day's proverb from the
Comoros.
Very good.
Simple, easy to understand. Targets men. Men. That variety of
Not
man.
humankind.
No. Man. That variety of man who is looking for a companion, female companion. You can win a woman with lies, but you cannot feed her with lies.
Okay.
Jackie is holding her peace.
I'm holding my peace because I'm wondering what feed means.
Kuisha wewe. What is feed?
Feed as far as the proverb goes.
Yes.
This is the traditional proverb. The reference here was to men not only being heads of households, but looking after.
Providers.
Sustenance.
Yes, ensuring that everything that the woman needs in the home is provided for, including feed. When you say food, that's just part of the story. But it means she was well looked after. Provided for.
Okay, bring home the chicken.
Yes.
So it's not the figurative feed.
No.
Which you can still do.
No.
To different levels of success.
Yes. You know,
Jackie Oyuyo Gedenji
Bas.
is our guest in the studio this morning. So we didn't have our justice conversation yesterday, Justice Thursdays. We're having it today. And we've been talking about alternative means of resolving disputes. One of them is arbitration. And Jackie is the chairperson of the Nairobi Center for International Arbitration. Good morning, Jackie.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm well.
Are you well fed?
I'm
By
well
self
fed.
or otherwise?
Literally.
Okay. Good to have you in the show.
Thank you.
Karibu sana.
Asante.
The Center for International Arbitration. You know, those are the people who call themselves chartered arbitrator or arbiter. What is it?
So there's you can qualify to become a chartered arbitrator through a process, which can take several years. Most of us who have that title, and I'm one of 3 Kenyan women who have that title, are members of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators. Where does our charter come from? From the Chartered Institute in the UK. So you start your membership at associate level. You do an entry course, which is open to all professions. It's not, there's a misconception that arbitration is the preserve of lawyers, which is incorrect. Actually, when I started studying arbitration, we had a lot of engineers, quantity surveyors, architects, basically the built environment. We even had a pilot in my class, basically people from different professions. In fact, I wonder why we don't have more journalists in the profession, because we could certainly use a different skill set in the profession. So anyway, you start as an associate once you do your entry course, and then it's a modular learning. So with different modules, you qualify at different levels. You become a member and then a fellow. And then finally, you do what is called a peer interview, and based on your experience and the types of decisions you've made in the past, if you're considered a safe pair of hands, then you achieve then the chartered arbitrator status.
What is arbitration?
All right. So I can't talk about arbitration without talking generally about dispute resolution mechanisms that are alternative to the court system. And the only reason we talk about alternative is because we have been cultured, at least since independence, to resolve our disputes in court. So anything that is outside of the court then is considered alternative to the court system. And there's a spectrum of dispute resolution mechanisms, starting from negotiation, which is somewhat informal. We could sit around this table and just negotiate our way out of a dispute as parties. Or we could then bring in a third party, which is where some of the dispute resolution mechanisms that you've become familiar with come into play. So, for example, you could bring in a mediator, who is a third party that doesn't resolve your dispute, but facilitates your negotiation. So maybe you have both, if you're 2 parties, you have both, stood very firm on your different positions. The mediator comes to help you unpack those positions into what the underlying issues are and help you to resolve your dispute, not by giving you a solution, but generating ideas and helping you to come to a solution together. This is somewhat often confused with conciliation, which is typical in employment disputes and is actually provided for in our employment and labor statutes in Kenya. Conciliation, the difference with mediation, which I've just described, is that the parties may ask the conciliator to draft a solution for them to consider, which a mediator will never do. And then if you move higher up the spectrum, you're simply moving away from informality and sort of party autonomy to a more structured system, which is where arbitration comes in, and then finally litigation, and if nothing else fails, then we see outright war. So arbitration then is the more formal process, a step down from litigation, if you will, to the extent that you have invited a third party, who is the arbitrator, who has come in to then give you a decision based on what you have shared with the arbitrator. So it is a little more formal than the other processes that I described. In Kenya, we also have an alternative justice system, which considers our traditional dispute resolution mechanisms to the extent of, obviously, that, as described in the Constitution, those mechanisms are not repugnant to morality or to our value system as Kenyans. Yeah.
Is arbitration then given as an option when something else has failed, or can it be a direct selection from the very beginning of whatever dispute that you're handling?
So it really depends on what the parties decide.
Okay.
And a lot of times in dispute resolution clauses, which we call them the midnight clauses because people draft them after they've fought over everything else. And then this is the final clause we're drafting. So sometimes a lot of care is not taken in those dispute resolution clauses. However, they may have what we call a graduated system. So start with negotiation. If it fails, go to mediation. If it fails, go to arbitration. So to that extent, the parties can select it directly. You could just do away with all that and say, if we have a dispute, we're going directly to arbitration. Or you could have this more graduated system. It really depends on the parties.
And who's using arbitration services? Is it government? Is it big businesses? Is it employers with their staff?
Okay. Yeah. So let me answer that question in the context then of the Nairobi Center for International Arbitration. What we have seen is that a lot of contracts arise from the commercial space. And that space then is really everybody, if you think about it, because you could have a simple contract for the purchase of a car, or you could have a complex infrastructure project such as the expressway we have a clear view of here. So to that extent, then a state can be party to a dispute based on a bilateral investment treaty. Or it could be even in the family space, which spills over then into a dispute. It could be an employment dispute. It could be a mining dispute. It could be a contract for the supply of goods. So a very wide array, which simply means that arbitration is available to a broad section of our society.
And who is using it? If you look at...
So currently,
right
the bulk of our... at the center, every year we publish what we call a case report, and it's available on our website. And our year, starts July to June. So the previous one, which is for the period July 2020 to June 2021, the bulk of our disputes were arising from supplies of goods and services. And then we had some, in equal portion, then employment disputes and disputes arising from construction. So at the center, for the last financial year, we saw mostly domestic disputes, I would say. And domestic just means the parties are Kenyan and the dispute is then, resolved in Kenya. And like I said, largely from the supply of goods and services.
To government or to across the board, or you didn't analyze to that level?
Across the board. Across the board.
Interesting.
Yeah. How binding are the resolutions that you arrive at?
As an arbitrator, what you issue is called an award, and the award is final. Now, what has tended to happen is that, and the reason it's final, CT, is because the parties elected arbitration as a dispute resolution mechanism. Now, what has tended to happen is that if one party is not happy with the decision, they will then challenge the award. And some people have started to call that an appeal, but in the strictest sense, it is not an appeal. It is simply a challenge to the decision, and based on very clear criteria that are set out in the Arbitration Act of 1995. And the grounds for challenging an award are quite serious, to the extent that it borders on the conduct of the arbitrator. Was the arbitrator impartial? Was the arbitrator biased? Did the arbitrator actually take a bribe? Did the arbitrator give both parties or all parties a fair opportunity to be heard? Was there due process? So those kind of things are the basis on which you challenge an award. So it's not simply that I'm not happy with the decision that the arbitrator gave, but there are serious grounds of misconduct or fraud in the process.
Let me give you an example.
Yes.
Two people are engaged in a project. And the contract details stipulate that in the event of a disagreement, they go to arbitration. Now, who decides who the arbitrator is? And if there is a disagreement as to who the arbitrator is, how long can this matter be prolonged before it is actually determined?
Okay, thank you for the question. So who decides the parties decide. Because remember, we said it's a party autonomous process, which means the parties decide who the arbitrator will be and, which institution, for example, will administer the dispute. And I'll talk about that later. The parties can say they can define a person or they can define a skill set. So they can say, I want somebody who has 10 years experience in journalism, who is of a specific gender even, or from a specific country because of the perception of neutrality. If one party is from one country and another party is from a different country, they will state what criteria they want. Or they will state, we want this individual, or we'll select from these three individuals who both parties have nominated, and then we consider which of them is best suited to hear and determine the dispute. So it's up to the parties.
And if the parties can't agree, and that
happens. So this is where centers like the Nairobi Center come in, because if your dispute resolution clause is well drafted, then you will have indicated in the event of failure, of appointing failure, then we want a specific institute to appoint an arbitrator. And appointment means you leave it in the hands of that institution. You don't come back and start to challenge in perpetuity, like you're saying, because the idea is to have a process that is then efficient and is not, riddled with the usual delays. You simply want to have finality, even to the appointment of the arbitrator. And that doesn't mean that one party will not subsequently challenge. It's quite common for the appointment of an arbitrator to be challenged. And at the center, we then have a process through which we've established a structure called the arbitral court. And that arbitral court, contrary to its naming, is not determining disputes. It is determining issues such as the challenge of the appointment of an arbitrator or the challenge of the award.
Do these processes have an expiry date, or they can move from one generation to the other ad infinitum?
Again, depending on the parties. And, for me as an arbitrator, it's very disappointing when parties come to a process and then we're arguing for 5 months about, or they're arguing for 5 months about the appointment of the arbitrator, or they're arguing about a timetable. So one of the things you do almost immediately, you start the process, you invite the parties to a preliminary meeting, and you sort of set the tone and pace for the arbitration. So you'll have a schedule. This is when the claimant should file. This is when the respondent should file. But, life happens, delays happen. So as the arbitrator, you are then looked at as the master of procedure. You have to then start to push in a certain direction without compromising fairness to both parties. So it's a delicate balance of efficiency in terms of time and cost, and always reminding the parties that really it is up to them to make sure that the process is as efficient as possible. And if they're represented by lawyers, then also imposing on the lawyers those kind of requirements as to avoiding delay and avoiding unnecessary expense, because ultimately then it becomes costly to keep delaying the process.
In the event that there is a challenge to an award, to whom then is the challenge presented? Who handles the challenge?
So in Kenya, the High Court.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So then essentially it could then end up in litigation, which is what you are trying to avoid in the first place.
Yes.
So how often do these happen? When there's an award and then there's challenge to the award, how often do we see these then going back to the High Court? And then in addition to that, what kind of cases, I know you may not be able to speak to the matter of, but what kind of cases are we seeing that end up in arbitration in Kenya?
So generally, I'll answer the last question first. We're seeing cases around supply of goods. And goods, of a very broad range. Whether it's in the manufacturing sector, whether it's commercial sector, whatever it is. And also in construction, infrastructure, or even, say, gated communities, apartments, whatever, those kind of disputes as well. And the percentage, I would say, and it's not empirical, just a gut sense, is about maybe 2% end up in court. And what then happens is you start in High Court, and maybe the High Court takes a certain position. Now, because your lawyer has told you that there's still a chance.
Ground iko na wewe.
You then end up in the Court of Appeal and then the Supreme Court. And it has happened. And to some extent, there are some that needed to end up in the Supreme Court to bring finality in terms of saying this is the extent to which courts can intervene. And it's very clear, even in the Arbitration Act, the extent to which courts can intervene. The role of the court is quite limited. And it's limited to circumstances such as the one City mentioned around challenging the appointment of an arbitrator. You can go to court to challenge, but also around the award itself. So the court, and thankfully in Kenya, because of our constitution, we have a court that is respectful of alternative dispute resolution mechanisms. And in fact, if you go to court, say you and Eric have a contract, and you have a dispute resolution clause that encourages arbitration or actually requires arbitration, and you go to court, the court will send you back to arbitration.
Oh, right.
Yes.
Because they'll be able to see that.
Yes.
Follow process. Before you get here, you had said
yes.
that you were going to arbitration.
Correct.
What are you doing here?
You mentioned the Arbitration Act, Jackie.
Yes.
So you're already anchored in law. How many institutions does this act recognize? Yours is the Nairobi Center for International Arbitration. Is it the only one in Kenya?
No, it's not. And actually, the Arbitration Act preceded a lot of institutions, such as ours. Ours is about, 9 years old? Because the statute is 2013. And of course, the Chartered Institute is a lot older, but is a global institute. So the Act per se does not recognize any institutions. So what we at the Center have tried to do, because it's part of our mandate, is then to drive a national policy that governs ADR. To the extent that we are not then introducing unnecessary rigor into processes such as mediation, which require flexibility. But we're saying that if you hold yourself as a mediator, then who has licensed you to be a mediator? Who is making sure that you are conducting yourself professionally as a mediator? So that national policy, the initial drafting was done through a consultancy under the Nairobi Center, and then the Honorable Attorney General appointed a task force, or a steering committee, which was actually chaired by one of your guests who was here a couple of weeks ago, Senior Counsel John Ohaga. And the steering committee then, through stakeholder engagement, which we had also conducted at the Center, came up with a draft national policy. That draft policy is simply awaiting cabinet consideration and then parliamentary and Senate consideration so that it becomes policy. And actually, if you think about it, the policy should have preceded any statute. But, we're trying to then clean up and say, we recognize that there's so many forms of alternative dispute resolution, but there is no sort of structure in terms of professionals, professional conduct, even in terms of the understanding of these dispute resolution mechanisms, and therefore the uptake. I know you as a team, you're also familiar with the court annexed mediation, which
That's
has
the word I was looking for.
which has taken root.
Annexed. Yes.
Which has taken root. It started off by being piloted here in Nairobi, and then it has been rolled out to, I think, by my last count, about 15 counties. And really just to dispense justice to a wider audience and in a way that is perhaps, in our traditional sense, more familiar to us.
Before we take a break, so let me ask then. There is the Arbitration Act.
Yes.
Does it encompass everything, all the things that you've talked about, negotiation, conciliation, mediation, arbitration? Is everything under the Arbitration Act?
No, and hence the national policy, which is then proposing a dispute resolution bill, which will encompass...
Which will now have everyone.
Yes, and if necessary, make amendments to the Arbitration Act that would be necessitated by the policy.
KRA is right now implementing the alternative dispute resolution we've been talking about. So they rolled it out in 2015. So that is not arbitration.
I've looked at...
What is it?
I good question, because I've looked at
discussions with KRA.
It's discussions. It truly is
and
discussions.
People.
It truly is discussions with KRA, because when I looked at their rules, the dispute resolution policy that they have, they talk about something called facilitated mediation, which to me is not a technically sound term, because mediation is in itself facilitated negotiation. So what is facilitated mediation? And then it talks about this facilitated mediator telling you what the subject matter of the dispute is, and then sort of unpacking the issues.
Yeah.
So half of that is correct, because a mediator helps you to get to the issue, the underlying issues, and then helps you resolve. But I think at best, the KRA process, and I applaud it, because who wants to be caught up with KRA in court in perpetuity? Exactly. But I think at best it is a negotiation. And I think KRA should keep its doors open. Have they rebranded, by the way, or they're still KRA? They were talking about rebranding
to a service.
KRAs. But anyway, to the extent that they acknowledge they are offering a service that is almost involuntary. I mean, once you're in a tax bracket, you have to pay your taxes. But then you have to leave the door open, and I'm glad that they're doing this, leave the door open for conversations. So if I have a challenge as to the way you have taxed me, then I should be able to speak to you about it, and we should be able to come to an agreement about it. So I don't know what we are calling it, and I'm open to having a conversation as NCI with KRA so that we clarify what the dispute resolution process is, and then sort of understand who the third parties that are coming into the process are. Are there any third parties, or is it simply, as Wanjiru is saying, is it simply a conversation with KRA?
There's a third party. Who is in KRA, but it's a third party, and here they've decided they've basically sworn to represent the interests of nobody, but to hear everyone. So the commissioner is one side, Wanjiru is on the other side as the one who has an issue with KRA, and the third party is here, and that's how they've structured the current ADR. So you've gone through the tax dispute tribunal, you feel aggrieved. Instead of taking it now to litigation, before you go there, how about we have this conversation? Let's tujadiliane.
That one,
tuelewane. That is the whole mantra.
Yes.
Of the alternative dispute resolution. Yeah. Let's take a break. It's 28 minutes to 8. Kenya's biggest conversation. Eric Ndu City Constant. Guest host, Wanjiru Gekonyo. Host this hour, Jackie Oyuyo Gethenji. She's the chairperson of the Nairobi Center for International Arbitration, talking about how arbitration works as a dispute resolution mechanism. Good morning.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM.
Are you looking for employment and are tired of sending job applications without any response? Gone with no response? Tarmacking is now a thing of the past thanks to Skiza. Dial star 811 star 1 star 21 hash and subscribe to a ringback tune that reflects your qualifications only for 1.5 bob a day. And your callers will know your credentials and send you opportunities they come across. Set the tone with Skiza.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM.
Standard Group's Farm Kenya initiative is the umbrella entity for all agriculture-related channels, activities and investments. The media platforms under the Farm Kenya initiative include the Smart Harvest Weekly Pullout in the Saturday Standard, KTN Farmers TV, a 24-hour agribusiness TV station, Maisha Kilimo, a weekly agriculture show on Radio Maisha, AgriTalk on SpiceFM's morning show The Situation Room, and Grind na Agribiz on Vibes Radio morning show Morning Vibes. Find us online at www.farmers.co.ke, an integrated website that creates and aggregates agri-content, hosts a digital marketplace, and wide range of agri-data. Other platforms include specialized events such as the annual Mkulima Expo, quarterly Farmers Kenya Breakfast, and dedicated social media platforms at Farm Kenya 254. Farm Kenya, working to secure your growth.
Cloudy conditions in Nairobi at 14, highs of 24 and lows of 13 today. The sun is out in Nakuru at 13, highs of 24. We'll see highs of 22 and a mostly cloudy Nyeri at 15, coming down to lows of 12. And it's 9 degrees in Eldoret, highs of 25 today. Sunny conditions, however. The rain is coming down in Mombasa at 24, highs of 28. And we'll see highs of 28 as well in Malindi, where it's raining this morning at 25. It'll come to lows of 22. 17 degrees and sunny in Kisumu, highs of 28. And we'll see highs of 27. In Kakamega, where the sun is out as well at 16, it'll come down to lows of 14. Partly sunny conditions at 18 in Kampala, highs of 26 and lows of 17. While at 23, it's mostly cloudy in Dar es Salaam, highs of 30 and lows of 22. We're looking at 7 degrees and clear in Johannesburg, highs of 17 and lows of 5. And the rain is now coming down in Lagos at 26, highs of 32. Back down to lows of 26. 22 will be the low, which is what it currently is. And partly cloudy in Kinshasa, we'll go to highs of 32.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM.
It still continues hot and heavy on the Thika Superhighway this morning, and we're looking at inbound traffic, which is doing the thing, and it has spread really wide out to the Outer Ring Junction. So that's a bit of a mess this morning. Looking at the Eastern Bypass coming off North Airport Road, we had seen that clog up earlier today, but right now that has cleared up, so not too much of an issue. Let's look at that industrial area circuit where we have some traffic, quite some in and outbound on Jogo Road, as well as Lunga Lunga. Likoni is not looking too bad as you approach the interchange, however, on Mombasa Road, that piles up as you get towards the Southern Bypass. All right, what else are we looking at? Gong Road, really busy this morning, and also on Uhuru Highway as you get out into the city and then out through towards Westlands. That still continues to do the thing. All right, and Kiambu Road has also joined the fray. Really heavy traffic, as well as the Nimu Road this morning. So it looks like traffic hour has started officially. Let's keep an eye on things, see what's going on. Talk to us on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
Welcome to Spice FM, the best exclusive radio station bringing you the best mix of the best music ever. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
It's 23 minutes to 8. The conversation
Mornings
with
done right. 94.4.
The Center for International Arbitration. Wanjiru, you had a question before the break.
Yes, the question I had was about cost and time. Obviously, you don't want to go through the court process. Court cases can drag on and on. What's the cost benefit? What's the time benefit? And where's the oversight?
Okay. So
deep. When someone is talking about money, they tell you so.
I'm about to say it depends.
Like no difference at all.
No, and I will be honest and say that there are sections of the consuming public who believe that arbitration is becoming more costly than the court process. You know, in court you have your filing fees and then maybe have your legal fees. And you have sort of very definitive registry fees and that sort of thing. Now, with arbitration, the costs you're looking at are, firstly, if it's an administered dispute, and I had said I'd speak about this at some point. Administration of a dispute simply means that you have a secretariat, such as the NCIA, that is, handling the dispute resolution process from the back end. So
it's like the registry.
Yes. So they're not the decider, which is the arbitrator, but they're helping to communicate and, all those things. And, we then also incorporate our rules into the process. Now, generally, institutional rules are intended to fast track or to hasten the process. In fact, when we amended our rules in 2019, it was also to introduce what we call expedited arbitration or emergency arbitration, which if it's something you want done quickly, then it's important that you adhere to certain timelines. So almost all institutional rules, if not all, will give a timeline for certain things to happen, when the statement has to be filed, when the decision has to be made, that sort of thing. Costs really are usually a factor of the amount in dispute. So if, for example, at the center, we have a tiered system where at a minimum everybody will pay a fee of I think it's $1,000, $100,000 essentially at the lower end of the spectrum, and this will increase depending on the amount of the in dispute. Now, if you have a tribunal that comprises more than one arbitrator, then you're looking at fees 3 times over. If you have a dispute that involves several parties, then obviously there'll be more time taken because different parties have to be given the opportunity to be heard. If you have parties who are, in different jurisdictions, then of course time comes in. You have a party in San Francisco, you have a party in Japan, a party in Kenya. What is the most efficient time to meet? And thankfully, the pandemic has taught us that we don't have to meet physically. So we've introduced virtual processes. Even at the center, we've introduced a virtual process. And that comes with its own challenges and also opportunities. In addition to that, there'll be costs still, if you're represented, your legal fees. Now, by our last estimate, the bulk of the costs were arising from your representation. The rest of the costs, say 26%, were arising from this administration of the process and from the registry process and from any other processes that are necessary. For example, you want to bring in an expert. That expert witness comes at a cost. And so those are the kind of costs you'll be looking at in arbitration. So let me say the simpler, in quotes, the dispute, then the less the costs. The more complex it becomes in terms of parties and in terms of the processes, then it becomes a little more costly.
So it's not so it may be more expensive than a court process.
Yes.
So the benefit then maybe the time?
Yes, the benefit is then the time, and to the extent that, you remember I had said earlier, you can define the skill that you want in your arbitrator. The more the arbitrator understands the background of the dispute, which is not to say that they understand your particular circumstances, but they're well versed in the sector, then to that extent you're also efficient in terms of the understanding and efficiency from that perspective.
I still don't understand. When you go through a court process, there's what you pay the courts. But then, what you then pay your lawyers. Yes, there's a remuneration order. But beyond that, it's more of an understanding between the lawyer and their client. Now, how then is it really different? Because if you have an arbitration, okay, is it at the point where you're paying that particular secretariat where you're saying the costs may be more? Or is it because at the end of the day, the arbitrator also has to be paid, I'm sure? Or is it the same arrangement you have as when you take a matter to court?
So the legal fees could be similar because your lawyer may rely on the order that you're referring to. But one aspect of that order, Schedule 5, allows your lawyer to charge based on time and costs or time and complexity. So to that extent, there is that slight risk of sort of additional fees based on your negotiation with your lawyer. In terms of the arbitral process, your lawyer could still use, let me call them the other schedules of the remuneration order to define what fees will look like, which is basically party-to-party costs and then their own costs in terms of representing you. The complexity comes in when it's multiple parties, like I said, and then a tribunal consisting of more than one arbitrator, because then to that extent, the fees are magnified by the number. You could also then say, but who bears the costs? Generally, as with the courts, whoever loses
is slapped the bill.
Yes.
So
we call it costs following the event.
There's from my reading may be faulty, but bear with me. Is there a requirement for those who go into arbitration to put down a certain amount of money, whether in escrow or in whatever, prior to the culmination of that particular process?
It's not mandatory. It's what we call security for costs, and it's typically requested by the respondent where they say this claimant is bringing this claim, but they're not even good for the money if they lose, essentially. So we are asking that they deposit this sum with the tribunal until the matter is determined. And it's like I said, it's not mandatory. It just depends on the particular circumstances of that dispute and whether one party then requests it.
Yes. So my other question was on oversight.
Yes.
Right.
So oversight of?
How do you ensure that the process works, that the arbitrators do what they're supposed to do, they don't go partisan, especially because it sounds like there are various bodies that offer the service. And I ask this because we use public interest litigation, and some of at some point in one of our cases there was the possibility of taking it through arbitration. And I recall a discussion with our lawyers where they were saying, these guys, they're so unreliable. You know, if you get the wrong guy, you're so messed up. We'd rather go to court.
It's the roll of the dice.
Yes.
Is it really a roll of the dice, or is it protecting your turf?
Yes. The roll of the dice in terms of which arbitrator you get.
Yeah.
And, you know, Wanjiru, it is a genuine concern, and we do have to take a very introspective look as arbitrators and say, look, if the courts were efficient, would people still come to us? What is it that we are offering in terms of value? And it's absolutely important that we must be persons of integrity as arbitrators. And institutions of integrity, for example, with the NCIA. So if NCIA is administering a dispute and a question is raised about the conduct of an arbitrator, what is the recourse of the parties? And this is where, for example, the arbitral court established within our Act comes in to deal with such issues. Parties are still very welcome under the Arbitration Act in Kenya to go to the courts and say, look, this arbitrator misbehaved, misconducted themselves, should not have done this, did not disclose that they knew Eric from high school. And that therefore compromises the decision that they've made. So one of the aspects then of the national policy is then to give this general oversight. Because, as you've rightly said, there are several institutions. What do we know about these institutions? Who is policing the institutions? So if I say I have now certified Ndu to go out and mediate, who is making sure that on a regular basis Ndu is keeping herself up to speed in terms of continuous professional development, is continuing to conduct herself with integrity? And those are some of the issues that we want to address then through the national policy. So we don't want to be, very prescriptive in terms of this is what you should do, but we want to say if you're an institution that's holding yourself out as licensing and continuing to license professionals, then you must make sure that they're conducting themselves in the proper manner. So, much like journalists where you sort of internally manage your conduct, but making sure that if you do cross the line, there is a mechanism for...
There's a media council, which is established in statute, which deals with issues of misconduct in the trade. Do you think, Jackie, we should have some sort of uniformity in your trade? Number one, certification. That certification should be uniform. All accountants will have to sit CASNEB, right? To get that certification to become certified public accountant or whatever level. Should we have the same for arbitration? And number two, should you, as arbitrators, form a professional body like the way we have for engineers, for accountants, for lawyers, for the others? Should you have one? What do you think?
So the short answer is that for arbitration, we do have that sort of body.
Which one?
The Chartered Institute of Arbitrators, which sort of brings us up in the profession and then manages how...
Is it Kenyan or is it international?
It's international. So what we have in Kenya, for example, is a Kenyan branch. So, and I hear you when you say, should we in Kenya have that sort of body? And this is some of the contemplation of the national policy. Inviting stakeholders then to address the question of this body, what should it look like? Who should be at the helm of it? Should it be couched in the NCIA? Is that the proper place? Because the NCIA is governed by statute and is established by statute to sort of drive the ADR agenda in terms of training and education awareness, but also, then bringing in the aspect of professional conduct. For mediation, it's less structured. Yes, the Chartered Institute still brings up mediators in the profession, but we do have other training institutions. By my last count in Kenya, I think we had 5 or 6. We have less structure around that. And like I said, we don't want structure around the process per se, but we want structure around how individuals are licensed, because we're saying you are a safe pair of hands. We can continue to bring disputes to you as a mediator. How do we make sure you conduct yourself professionally? If you're an adjudicator, an expert determiner. So we have these institutions.
How do we trust your
globally.
competence?
How do we?
How do we trust your competence?
Correct.
In terms of, okay, so you're certified. Who certified you?
Yes, and who continues to make sure
And
you
who
stay
continue-
relevant?
Yes.
Yes. So, yes, the short answer, yes.
So, I mean, looking at the entirety of the process from what you've been explained, what then would be the benefit overall? I mean, because that's what then folks are weighing. You know, divergent parties are weighing and say, should we go the mediation way? Should we go the arbitration way? Should we go the litigation way? What would then, from where you sit, be the benefit of going arbitration, save the time aspect that you mentioned?
Okay. So, unless you are somebody who thrives in confrontation, chances are you don't want your dispute playing out in the public domain. So one of the benefits of these alternative forms of dispute resolution is privacy. So, you know, unless and until an award is challenged by one of the parties, most people don't know that the process is even going on, unless you're privy. So privacy is a big one. The confidentiality of the process, it's not something that, you know, people will talk about. Unless you have then given them some latitude with the consent of both the other party and the arbitrator or the mediator.
Okay.
And also the whole question of efficiency in terms of time and cost.
Yes.
The due process in terms of fairness, equal opportunity. You know, for example, when you have a mediation in a family dispute, which may manifest as a commercial dispute, we are simply saying we're giving you the opportunity to come and be heard and to say things that you may not be able to say in a courtroom. Like, I wouldn't be able to get to the heart of an issue as a judge, or maybe even as an arbitrator, that I may be able to do as a mediator. Because mediation also gives you the process to say, things are heating up in this room as we're talking. Let's take a moment. Allow me to sit down with Ndu for a minute and just hear her out. And then sit with Wanjiru. And then sit with Eric and sit with Siti and really understand, especially in the family context, it's really important to be able to... because the thing you want to do in an alternative dispute resolution is to preserve your relationship beyond the dispute.
Sure.
And if that is important to you, then these dispute resolution mechanisms really become attractive to you.
And then off the back of that, let's say you've begun in litigation, for example, do you then have people, or do you then have cases sometimes whereby it started in litigation and then perhaps there is the option of then going the arbitration way? Have you found that you can, you know, move levels and then, you know, continue it in that manner when several factors have been considered?
Yes.
Okay.
You can start in litigation and you can say, look, guys, this is not working. It's taking too much time. I'm tired of, you know, this back and forth. Can we try a different way? And if, to the extent that both parties are willing, we have seen success. I'm sure you've seen in the media the reports of family disputes, for example, that have gone on for decades and have finally been resolved through mediation.
Yes. Yep.
Or, you know, parties who said, look, we'll go see you in court because, you know, it's the thing you do when you're upset. But then the reality starts to hit you in terms of how much time and money you're spending. And you're saying, look, let's try a different way. It happens, and it can happen successfully to the satisfaction of both parties. So it's a win-win. And ultimately, I would say, in addition to preserving the relationship, then you also have an outcome that you can live with.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right.
So as we look into, you know, the policy and where the policy is going and the entire profession of arbitration as an alternative dispute resolution, what would you tell anybody who is involved in a dispute? Okay, in fact, no. Before we get to anybody who's involved in a dispute, there's something that you said. When people are, you know, writing down their contracts or striking deals, they just put in there, oh, you know, this contract shall be bound by the laws of Kenya, and in the event of a dispute, it shall be arbitration.
The competent courts, yes.
The arbitration.
Right.
What should we be focusing on at that point of, you know, when we are drafting contracts and agreements, and we'd like, in the event there shall ever be a dispute, to go through arbitration? what should we include at that point in our agreement?
Okay. So when you're drafting a contract, a lot of the clauses you're including in the contract are to prepare for divorce rather than the sustenance of the marriage.
Yeah.
So in the event of divorce, you want to be certainly on a better standing than not be prepared at all. So in a dispute resolution clause, you want clarity more than anything. So you want to be clear on which dispute resolution mechanism you're going to select, how long you're going to give that process of, for example, agreeing the appointment of an arbitrator, like Siti mentioned earlier, or a mediator, which institution you want to administer your dispute, which language you want to have as the language of the process. Are we going to assume it's... Yes, you can get to that level of detail.
English, and someone says, I only understand Chinese.
Exactly. And then you have a dispute around the language, what kind of arbitrator you want, if you want to get that to that level of...
In terms of understanding skill.
Yes.
Okay.
Or even where the arbitrator should come from. And what a lot of Kenyan companies are starting to discover is that they used to put in certain clauses thinking they'd never have to rely on them. So, for example, they'd say, we want our dispute to be administered by the London Centre for International Arbitration. And then it hits you that you're both in Kenya, you're going to have to go to London to administer your dispute. Why? It's going to be really costly. Yeah. So think through these things, and that's why the lawyers are there to help you to think through what makes sense for you, or what will make sense for you in the event that that your dispute, that your contract falls through. Yeah. What are the kind of things you want? So you want to be clear about the process of dispute resolution, or if it's a graduated process, how long you're giving each process, the neutral, how you want that neutral to be appointed. Is it directly? If that fails, do you want an institution involved? And then if you want to get a little more granular, then you start to talk about things like the language, where the arbitration will be held, if it's an arbitration, where the mediation will be held. And then, of course, you always say, and you don't have to say it, but you always say that the decision of the arbitrator will be final.
How many times do people come before arbitrators, from your even talking with your colleagues, and that clause is just one line: arbitration, in the event of a dispute, arbitration, and they haven't defined all these things, and so they start to fight at that stage.
Very often, more often than I would care to
those
admit.
clauses are usually clause number 9J.
Yes.
Yeah, you don't really look over
arbitration.
it.
Yes.
And then the laws of Kenya. Bas.
But also, it may be precisely that, but the opportunity to vent seems to be greater in an arbitration than if you're in a court of law.
Yeah.
Because it's your protagonist, or whoever the other individual is, and the arbitrator. As opposed to a court of law where the lawyers take center stage. You are the audience. You sit and you wait to be represented. Here you are actually allowed to actually say your piece. And by the time you're going to any sort of mediation arbitration, you've already disagreed. So you will vent.
Yeah.
And you will be right. Before you're now told, actually,
no, you're not.
Maybe, but the other person is also right.
Looking at just a simple agreement here. All claims and disputes whatsoever arising under this agreement shall be referred first to mediation, failure to which parties shall be at liberty to seek recourse from the courts in Kenya. And it sounds very good, right?
No, because at what point do you decide the mediation has failed, and how long do we wait before we then go to arbitration?
And does mediation mean arbitration?
And this, we have to start to understand these concepts and distinguish them from each other. Yes.
I think a lot of information. In fact, you ought to come back and now start taking us through each of these.
Yes.
When you are going for mediation, this is what you get. When you're going for arbitration, this is what you shall
when
get.
You're going for conciliation.
This is what you
We can even do a mock mediation.
Jackie, you'll come back.
Happy to do that.
Jackie Oyuyo-Gethenji is the chairperson of the Nairobi Center for International Arbitration. We're talking about arbitration and how it works as a dispute resolution mechanism. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you. Asanteni sana.
Keep it here for more conversations. Coming up in the next hour, we talk about the Red Card campaign. Should some people be on the ballot on August 9th? Should some people we know be on the ballot?
Or not. Hardly or not. So that we can understand each other.
Good morning, it's 8 a.m.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
Good morning. This is Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i will today chair a security meeting comprising of senior police and national government administration officers. The meeting is scheduled to take place at the Administration Police Training College, Embakasi, from 11:30 a.m. Thereafter, the CS is also expected to be the guest speaker at the Anglican Muranga South Diocese Cathedral in Kennel. The discussion, which is to commence at 2:30 p.m, will delve into a discussion on what the role of the church is playing in securing successful and peaceful election. Newswire and the entire Standard Media Group will be following up on that and bringing you the latest in our subsequent bulletins. Now, Deputy President William Ruto says he will not attend the presidential debate, citing marginalization by a section of media houses in their news coverage. In a statement released by the Director of Campaign, Hussein Mohammed, Kenya Kwanza terms the debate as a platform already geared to put presidential aspirants down to the advantage of others. The Kenya Kwanza presidential aspirant further stated that there was continuous propaganda being peddled by a section of mainstream media in abuse of statutory terms of license, further violating constitutional freedom. The statement further stated, political news is a matter of public interest and its coverage, therefore, according to the Media Council Act of 2013, has to be done fairly, accurately, and with all sides of the story being reported. And Roots Party presidential aspirant George Wajakoya was cleared to contest for the presidency in the August polls by the Independent Electoral Bodies Commission. IEBC boss Wafula Chebukati made the announcement after Wajakoya submitted the required number of supporters' signatures from 24 counties.
I want to confirm that the supporters list we submitted has met the requirements, and we are now confirm that you have the minimum requirements of supporters required for this exercise. So on that ground, we have accepted your application for nomination as a presidential candidate.
We have come back and you have fulfilled the requirement. This is not an easy task. It's not a laughing matter. It's a matter that is going to make the whole nation look into whether we are capable or not.
Wajakoya was Monday turned away by the Elections Authority body after submitting a list of supporters from 17 counties instead of the required 24. Today, IEBC is expected to receive 3 more presidential aspirants, Jane Munyeki, Wahiga Moure, and Jeremiah Nyaga. The High Court has frozen 18 prime properties and 7 motor vehicles belonging to former Kiambu Governor Ferdinand Waititu pending the hearing and determination of a case filed by the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. The orders issued by Anti-Corruption Court Judge Esther Maina restrained Waititu, his wife Susan Dongo, and their companies from selling, transferring or any other way interfering with the properties and vehicles until the case is concluded. Waititu is accused of fraudulently acquiring the assets worth 1.94 billion shillings between 2015 and 2020 in his capacity as governor and former legislator. The former governor, who was impeached as Kiambu governor in January 2020, is accused of allegedly misappropriating public funds by issuing fraudulent procurement tenders to firms outsourced to offer services to the county government of Kiambu. And 100 people tested positive for COVID-19 from a sample size of 1,759, marking a positivity rate of 5.7%. Of the cases, 80 are Kenyans, while 20 are foreigners, 54 males and 46 are females, while the youngest is a 2-year-old and the oldest is 39 years old. This as the government intends to launch the enhanced vaccination exercise in the capital, Nairobi, aimed at protecting the population against the virus. This as Newswire continues to urge you to be careful out there. Remember to always wear that mask, because that would be the difference between being in hospital and enjoying your life. Now, 3 people died on the spot while another was pronounced dead at a local hospital after sustaining gunshot wounds in a standoff between police officers drawn from the elite GSU police unit and protesters. Makinde Hospital confirmed the 4 deaths, adding some 6 people had sustained injuries of varying degrees. The police unit was deployed to quell protesters at Masimba along the busy Nairobi-Mombasa highway. A group of residents barricaded the road for hours, cutting off transport corridors to express displeasure with the National Administration over unresolved human-wildlife conflict in the area that had resulted in eight deaths within 3 months, the latest victim being a teacher who was killed a week earlier. This is Newswire. Dennis Arseto. Good morning.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
Quite a lot of it still on the Thika Superhighway this morning, inbound to the city. Quite heavy as you get just before the Pangani underpass. Apart from that, I think that issue that we had seen earlier is not too much of an issue. We're still seeing traffic on Kiambu Road this morning, in and outbound. Coming in from Westerns, nothing too bad. We're seeing traffic also coming in from Langata Road, and we're going to keep an eye on that one. Jogo Road also feeding off onto Landis and out towards Kamkunji, not too painful. So the traffic situation seems to be manageable at this point. We'll keep an eye on things and see what happens a few minutes after 8 o'clock. In the meantime, let's talk on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
My mic is on now. It is 7 minutes after 8. Very good morning to you. Welcome to the third hour of Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room. This lovely Friday, the third day of March 2022. We're yet to cross over into the second quarter of 2022. I hear some people are in the final month of the financial year. Some people are lucky, eh? Hey.
Lucky, how exactly?
Yeah?
They just...
So they're going into the next financial year with a budget, as we are still operating in quarter 3.
You just squeeze those screws. Pesa zinatoka.
Una squeeze.
Nigeria is being very onomatopoeic this morning.
I'm telling you. So, how else do you express the pain?
In the absence of those sounds, the message is incomplete. Shui and shu. Okay.
How do you express the pain? The people we pay lots of money there, they just adding tax after tax.
Squeezing. Pesa zinatoka.
Have to be consistent with the sounds. Eh?
Right. Yeah, you have to decide which one is which. Welcome to everybody who's joining us now on KTN Home. We are live on KTN Home, in addition to being live on SpiceFM around the country. And we are also live streaming the show on Facebook. SpiceFM KE is our page. And YouTube, our channel is SpiceFM KE. Just go in and search for SpiceFM. And you see the one that is Kenya. That's us. We're live everywhere. So earlier in the week, I met Mzee in Kilimani, and he introduced himself as Mwalimu Tom Abongo, who is a teacher at Agai Mixed Secondary School in Sondu. Where is Sondu City?
Sondu, sub-county of Nyakach, part of Kisumu County.
Nyakach, Kisumu County.
Yes, and Sondu is that part of Luo Nyanza that borders Kericho County.
All right.
Yes. You've heard of the Sondu Miriu hydroelectric
dam.
And there's the river Sondu also.
Yes.
So,
It's the one.
It's the one.
Okay.
Big marketplace.
There's a school there called Agai Mixed Secondary.
Yes.
Yeah. It's there in Sondu. This Mzee is a teacher there. He will be retiring soon. but he watches this show every morning when he's able to. And he said, salimia hao wenzako. Nikamwambia na wenzangu nitawasalimia na pia wewe na wenzako tutakusalimia siku ya Ijumaa saa 2 asubuhi.
Na leo ni Ijumaa.
Na leo ni Ijumaa.
Na
ni saa 2 asubuhi. Yes, ahadi tumetimiza. Yes.
So sio deni tena.
Sio deni. Sio deni. Ni ahadi tumetimiza. City, you have the day's proverb before we introduce our next guests.
I do. It's from the Comoros. You can win a woman with lies, but you cannot feed her with lies.
You can win a woman with lies, but you cannot feed her with lies.
With lies.
Okay.
Universality. Universality.
Lies here are words which are represent an untruth.
Sweet nothing.
Yes, not the crawly creature that has something like around 12 legs. Not that one.
It's not lice.
It's not lice.
Universality. It shows the conduct of this relationship. This is a universal thing because this is the Comoros. And it can also be applied.
And people have the same issues.
Same tabias. Ni zile zile. And it can also be applied to our political. Yes.
Talking politics, let's introduce our next guest in the studio. Sheila Masinde is the Executive Director of Transparency International Kenya. Sheila, good morning.
Good morning.
Good to have you in the Situation Room.
On the hot seat.
Yes,
Woo-hoo.
on the hot seat. Last time we had you here, you avoided the actual hot seat by being in the comfort of your own space.
It was online, but it was equally hot and burning. So
Sheila is used to the hot seat. You cannot be the head of an anti-corruption institution in Kenya and not be used to the hot seat. I am not worried for you, Sheila. Yes, you're more than prepared.
You know, we have been having this conversation as we head towards August on Chapter 6 of the Constitution.
Yes.
Is Chapter 6 of the Constitution on trial? Are we actually going to see the full implementation and enforcement of Chapter 6 and all the other attendant pieces of legislation? The Leadership and Integrity Act that brings Chapter 6 of the Constitution to life. That says somebody who is seeking to serve in public, especially in elective office and in appointed offices, should be of high moral integrity and character, ethical. They should abide by the Public Officers Ethics Act once they're in office, and all this and the other. And then now it comes to vetting for this office. So IEBC, should IEBC be clearing these people? Who does IEBC rely on to support them in making this decision? Okay, the various institutions, whether it is the EACC, the DCI, whether it's the who else? The
others are carrying
certification authorities,
taxation,
KRA and all. And there's been debate. So now, yesterday, the chairman of the IEBC, Wafula Chebukati, said, as far as we're concerned, people who've been impeached, we are not going to clear them. But he says, also as far as we're concerned, in accordance with the law, somebody who has gone to court, has been declared guilty or has not yet been declared guilty, they're same boat. As long as they've not exhausted all avenues of appeal, if they come to us, we'll clear them to vie again. Which raises the question that everybody has been having. Now, your institution, together with Njoroge Konyo's institution, the Institution for Social Accountability, and others, the Institute, and others have come together, and you've launched the Red Card campaign. Okay, tell us about that.
Yes, thank you, Eric and Ndu and City. Thank you for having me, and Shiro as well. And yes, 2 weeks ago, as the National Integrity Alliance, it's a season of alliances, but ours has been there for more than 7 years. So it's not a Johnny Come Lately alliance like these political alliances.
Who's your running?
Who's
your running mate?
As soon as you're running mate, we don't have those kind of problems. As we are just there to tell Kenyans about corruption and show them the direction to take in terms of leadership and integrity. But as the National Integrity Alliance, we've been in existence since 2015. We came together as institutions. Inuka Kenya, the Institute of Social Accountability, TI, Transparency International Kenya. We also have the Kenya Human Rights Commission and Mzalendo Trust. So together and following the work that we did in 2017, because we also issued a red card list of 20 in 2017 and had this similar campaign and listed individuals who we from various cases in the courts who are facing charges of corruption and other offences, people who had also been listed by various parliamentary reports, the Auditor General's reports and other competent public fact-finding institutions. We listed those names and said that they were not fit to hold office because they had ethical issues, they had questions, doubts around, their ability to be able to manage and oversight public resources. Unfortunately, even at that time, there were some that didn't go through the sieve and didn't get back to public office. But for majority of those who did, we actually made an effort to update where they are now, where the red carded of 2017. You'll find that most of them have fresh cases, some even murder charges as well.
Yep.
So more serious cases. And that's why we felt this time again we need to come out very strongly to ensure that this time we don't have the same situation as 2017. So we did a list of 25, a very, very thorough process, and we actually went as far as having a public vetting panel which comprised other institutions from church, the religious sector, the media, as well as other non-governmental organizations which are also interested on issues around human rights and accountability. So we believe that list is thorough because it was validated by others who are also looking and concerned around issues of integrity. And that is after we had their confidence and we had thoroughly checked all the names and the issues that each of those people face. We were then able to publish that list 2 weeks ago, and now we are actively seeking and asking institutions that these people should not be cleared. But we have seen IEBC has already done the clearance, and just also noting that EACC has already also just published its own list of 241. And despite this, I think what I've seen the statement from the IEBC chair yesterday is that the only people that they, from their reading of the law, particularly guided by Article 99 and also 193.3, which of course says that, as you have said, Eric, that you cannot be disqualified if you're still, appealing or seeking review of a sentence or a conviction or a judgment. And so they're the only ones. They said that they will be able to block those who have already been removed from office as per Article 75.3. That's the ones who have been impeached. But we still hold, because I believe that we are not reading the Constitution holistically. You need to read it holistically. We just can't be boxed by Article 99, Article 193. I think we have been given all sections, all laws and all to say that this is the reason why we have to block these folks. But we're telling them, go back and read the entire Constitution, get the spirit and the letter of the Constitution. And starting just from Chapter 6, when you look at Chapter 6, it actually implies that there are ethical considerations. There's an ethical standard that has to be applied, such that once you have been, when you read it well, it says that when you look at Article 73, there's an aspect around you have to meet certain moral and ethical standards. It talks about that you have to satisfy educational, moral, and ethical qualifications, in addition to others that are required for public office. And for us, once you have been charged in court, once you have been accused of corruption, you have been charged in court, you have been removed from office, you have been convicted, already there's a question mark in regard to your character, in a sense that you'll not be adequately able to bring honor to that office that you will be serving. Command respect, bring respect, win public trust, because those are all things that Chapter 6 is looking at, that anyone who is in public office, you must bring honor to that public office that you serve. You must be able to win public trust. So once you already have aspersions cast on your character because you have charges in court or you have been accused of certain offenses, whether they're ethical issues or criminal issues, then it just means that you don't satisfy the requirements of Chapter 6. But we are all going quickly to Article 99. That unless you have exhausted all appeal mechanisms, then you are allowed to continue holding office or vying for office and so on. So we're asking, please go back and get a reading of the entire Constitution to understand where we are coming from in regard to why these people should be blocked further from seeking public office.
Sheila, how far in terms of resolution would then this red card list go? There are many factors that are at play here. There's been the argument of the moral index, and in terms of morality here, where you're saying if you have been besmirched, that alone is enough for you to step down. Or if there's a doubt on your image, that's enough for you to step down. We've seen that happen in very many other countries. Yeah. That if there's even a suggestion of something untoward, you leave.
Yes.
Many have argued that, the moral index here is not as high. One. There's another factor to play here, and the biggest probably is the law itself, whereby it can be seen as a loophole that people are going to use. 99. Everybody's using it right now. Well, I haven't exhausted everything. So how far will, and I ask for a reason, how far will this list, will this red card go in seeking resolution to this issue? What would it do?
No, as I said, this time we're really determined to ensure that we go as far as we can. And that is why I'm saying we need to go back and get a holistic reading of the list. As you have said, that the moral bar in this country is quite low, but we need to take it up. And we actually didn't start off Chapter 6 in that way. If you remember, was it in 2011 or 2012 when the Deputy Chief Justice, Nancy Baraza, was removed from office? Do you remember? Yeah. And for pinching, a security guard's nose.
Right.
Yeah. And she apologized. I think there was even a delegation sent to the lady's house to say sorry, Pole. But people insisted that you have actually breached Chapter 6 of the Constitution.
Yep.
It wasn't a criminal offense, but you violated someone's rights. And on that account, she left office. And at that time, the Chapter 6 bar was so high up there, And so that's why, for me, when someone says that, you've been accused of murder, murder, not pinching a nose, murder, and you remain in office for 4 years after those allegations, because you're saying, I'm still in court, I have not exhausted all my appeal mechanisms.
Or having been, because this is, there's no need to beat around the bush here. There are cases whereby individuals have been convicted, sentenced, right?
Yeah.
And still, because of this appeal loophole, they're able to say, it was my enemies who were after me, and I'm going to prove then that I can still go ahead and do this, having then received a nomination certificate from the same IEBC. So this is what we are speaking about, that we could seem like we can keep talking about it, but until and unless there is a change in the law, but it seems that is what is going to do.
No, but exactly. Why should there be a change in the law? I'll explain why I'm asking the question. I asked a Chief Justice that same question. Language, wording, phrasing, again, may obfuscate this matter. When you impeach, it means you are found guilty of certain things, isn't it?
Yes.
But within that system, there is a mechanism for appeal. Even those who've been impeached are appealing. But they remain impeached.
Yes.
And a new person is sworn in.
Yes.
And a new person. And even the ones, and that's our argument as well, that even if you have been convicted, because when you have been convicted, like for instance in this case of the MP who has been, that there's this whole hue and cry about his clearance, he was convicted, right? He's stayed in jail, I think, for almost 4 months as he was trying to raise bail, and appealed the case. But you see, the sentence of, is it 67 or 69 years, has not been set aside. He's still been sentenced, So how on earth is he then allowed to vie when he's already been sentenced? He's only out here because he has paid bail, and the case is ongoing. But even in that case, the appeal case, that sentence has not been set aside while the case is still being, had.
But even as a lay person, our laws, from what I've been told by legal individuals and minds like yourself, Sheila, is that in this country, you are innocent until proven guilty. when you've been sentenced,
you've been proven
You've been
guilty.
proven guilty.
Precisely.
Exactly.
So you are appealing the guilty verdict. You are no longer innocent.
Yes, but the point is, because I thought we were on the same side and then I've lost you with that last one, because what we are saying is once you're charged, you know, once a case has been made against you, evidence has been generated accusing you of murder, economic crimes and other misdeeds, one, we would expect that you step aside.
That's enough to have you step aside.
And then not be eligible to vie until the point where you clear your name.
I'm in agreement. I was merely furthering the argument following
that it is beyond a charge now.
Yes,
it's beyond an
it's
allegation.
not just a It's not an charge, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So you're not you're innocent when that case is ongoing.
Yes.
This one was concluded.
When a competent judicial officer has actually found you guilty, what are we discussing?
Yes.
No, that's an open and shut case.
Yeah. So how was
well,
it issued?
not
No, it is not with the IEBC.
Not really. And the IEBC, the institution that is charged then with carrying through an election and clearing individuals who will then contest in said election. Not to them. It's
in
not
fact,
open and
what,
shut.
what happens with that is that now will go through the courts. Because the other thing, as Sheila mentioned at the outset, is of the original, of the 2017-20 list of 20, who were then cleared, they went on to accumulate other cases, several of them.
Yeah.
And then several of them were then subsequently impeached anyway.
Yeah.
So the cost to the taxpayer in terms of loss of services, in terms of the public drain, is significant.
It is.
So IEBC needs to do their jobs. And that's the question I wanted to ask. How do you rate the performance of the EACC and IEBC now compared to 2017 and compared to your expectation?
Well, you know, it's too early to rate Wanjiru because I've called you Wanjiru, meaning I'm so serious in what the point I'm
good.
making.
Yes, let me sit up straight. Sheila is speaking. Yes.
So it's too early to rate because, like for ESCC, they've just released the list. I want to see how far they'll go in terms of pushing and making their point. You see, for IEBC, I think that they're still stuck in that box of Article 99, Article 1993, and not really, despite all the clamor that we have made in the last 5 years, having gone even to court on a number of these issues around integrity. And maybe just to, allow me to go back to Ndu's question in terms of how far we'll go, just to share that one of the things we have done is this time we have actually taken a couple of matters to court to seek the court's interpretation. One, and even in terms of who's the final custodian of Chapter 6, because there seems to be kind of a grey area. IBC says that it's the one responsible for clearing in terms of, these issues around Chapter 6, such that what ESCC did, like that list that was presented of 241 and even the 106 in 2017, is just, their work is just to list and profile. They have it is now IBC to decide, okay, so you've given us this list, what are we going to do with it? It's not ESCC saying that, no, don't block this. It's merely just profiling and kind of recommending, So we feel that because ESCC, if you read Article 79 of the Constitution, under Chapter 6, it requires an independent commission which will be responsible for ensuring compliance and enforcement of Chapter 6. In our reading, that should be the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. But in essence, in terms of now, when you look at what IEBC is doing, in terms of now being the final say, in terms of clearance, in regard to Chapter 6 matters, then IEBC has kind of taken that role. But it should be ESCC. And we have gone to court and asked, give us the declaration, who's the final custodian of Chapter 6? Because if we leave it to IEBC, for sure, it is the electoral management body, but it is not responsible for Chapter 6 issues. That information, those processes are charged with ESCC. So it then follows that they should be the ones responsible and have the final word in terms of clearing people in regard to integrity. So we want that direction from the court. I can't talk much about it because, of course, it's still a matter under court, and we wait to see what the court will rule. But if we don't move forward on this, I believe we'll continue to get stuck because IBC will not do this for us. And you see, our reasoning is also because when it comes to issues around taxation, it's KRA which does the clearance. When it comes to issues around, the issues around criminal matters, DCI, certification exams, academic issues, issues. We have the Commission on University Education and the Kenya National Qualifications Authority, NEC, and all that, looking at the certificates. So why does Chapter 6 have to be done by IEBC when all the other processes are manned by the respective institutions? So we believe that this will give us a way forward, and that's why I said we are going that far, as far as trying to now, once and for all, because you've talked about changing the law. If we have the same characters going back to Parliament, we'll still be stuck in a box, because we have the same people who are listed. They are going back to Parliament. They're not going to change the leadership and integrity law and all the other anti-corruption laws. They want to preserve themselves. It's about status quo for them. So there's no progression coming from our elected leadership if we have the same lot. So we'll have to see how we canvass it in other spaces, and that's why we're looking at the courts, so that we can actually get this, Chapter 6 fully implemented in its full letter and spirit, as we desired when we passed the Constitution in 2010.
I think the burden moved away from the courts a long time ago. It went into these so-called independent institutions and the judiciary, because the Constitution, like we keep saying, is clear. The law is clear-ish. Where do we seek the clarity? It's in court. And we can actually get the law enforced and written and given clearance and clarity in court. Anyway, let's take a break. We'll continue this conversation shortly. It's 8:30. It's the Situation Room on SpiceFM, online, Facebook and YouTube, and on KTN Home. Our guest host today is Wanjiru Gikonyo from the Institute for Social Accountability. And our guest this hour is Sheila Masinde, Executive Director of Transparency International Kenya. The Kenya Revenue Authority would like to remind you about the alternative dispute resolution mechanism. Ndu?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So you get an email ping in your box and you realize, okay, hold on, there might be an issue here. And so what are we going to do? Do the normal, cops and robbers and run away from KRA? Absolutely not. There's an option for you to then actually have the alternate dispute resolution mechanism that has been set up by KRA to say, look, come sit down in the presence of KRA, yourselves and whomever else you want to represent you, to say, let's put these issues on the table. Let's see what other mechanisms we can use to say, are you right or are you wrong? Is this the amount? Is it not? And then, come to an agreement that is then comfortable for everybody.
Let's take a break. We'll be back shortly. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM.
Hey, Mato, what's up? You're not yourself today, man. Just a little push and pull with my taxes. I'm moving to court to challenge some tax claims from the KRA. Easy, man. Have you considered talking to them before, taking this long judicial route? What do you mean talking to them? It's a KRA, for heaven's sake. Yo, listen. The KRA has established an alternative dispute resolution mechanism which is faster, flexible, confidential, and above all, provides a win-win outcome for all parties. Wait. As in, I can actually engage KRA out of court? Oh, yes. And it's free. Now, able get that gloom off your face and go talk to KRA today.
For more information on KRA's alternative dispute resolution, write to adr@kra.go.ke. KRA.
A cloudy morning, a chance of rain in Nairobi at 16 currently. Highs of 24 and lows of 13. It's sunny at 14 in Nakuru, highs of 24 and lows of 13. Mostly cloudy conditions at 16. In Nyeri, highs of 22 and lows of 12, and we'll see lows of 11. In sunny Eldoret, currently at 13, going to highs of 25. Rain showers at 25. In Mombasa, highs of 28 and lows of 24. And in Malindi, it's raining as well at 26. We'll see highs of 28 and lows of 25. It's sunny at 20 in Kisumu, highs of 28 and lows of 17, and the sun is out as well in Kakamega at 21. It'll go to highs of 27 and lows of 15. Partly sunny conditions in Kampala at 26. At 22, I beg your pardon, highs of 26 and lows of 17, while at 24, it's the sun is up in Dar es Salaam, highs of 30 and lows of 22. The sun is out as well in Johannesburg, highs of 17 and lows of 5. And the rain continues in Lagos at 26. That'll be today's low, going to highs of 32. It's 22 and partly sunny in Kinshasa, highs of 32, back down to lows of 22.
Spice up your life.
All right, so traffic still continues in most parts of the city this morning, going out past the Thika Superhighway. Much better situation there as that accident has been sorted out. And then in no time, another one on Outer Ring. This is just near Mutindo, and that is causing some traffic when a vehicle is now where it's not supposed to be. Police in on the scene trying to sort that out. But if you're going into that direction, coming off North Airport Road, a bit of traffic then has piled up due to that accident. So just be wary of that. Coming off Thika Superhighway into the city, not too bad for now. Gong Road looking a lot better than it was before. Langata Road, not much in terms of traffic, but we will see some action on Huru Highway out into the city and then out through to Westlands. Let's keep an eye on things this morning, folks. Let's talk on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
Spice and everything nice. All right.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
Okay, it's 25 minutes to 9. Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room on SpiceFM, on YouTube, on Facebook, on KTN Home. We are talking about the integrity question, the red card campaign, spearheaded by several organizations, civil society organizations coming together under Transparency International. Sheila Masinda is Executive Director of TI Kenya. Wanjiru Gekonyo is, what are you? You know, you have a very fancy title at TISA.
National Coordinator.
There you go.
A more egalitarian term.
Hey.
National Coordinator.
Coordinator.
Why don't you just add service to it since?
In between national and coordinator.
Yes, somewhere, even before. Service National Coordinator.
National Coordinating Authority at the Institute for Social Accountability.
Hello, people. Yeah, let's stick to the subject. Let's focus.
The subject is on...
Stop trying to distract us from the important matter of integrity of our elected or
Who
aspirants.
has the authority on clearance of candidates? Well, that is one issue. But also, when you talk about Chapter 6 of the Constitution, that then gives the authority has been given by the Constitution to the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission to be like, the custodian of Chapter 6, to make sure that they're monitoring, they're ensuring compliance and enforcement of Chapter 6 of the Constitution. Then members of Parliament went to give life to Chapter 6, and they came up with the Leadership and Integrity Act, and they added some few things. They left very many things, and they just...
Did you start by saying they went to give life?
Yeah.
They were building a mortuary.
Exactly.
They were morticians.
Exactly.
Yes, it was a funeral home.
Their advisors were telling them, just add this one sentence, this clause.
And it will sort us out.
Nullify
and that it has done so far. But you see, effectively, and I keep arguing that yes, we have this challenge with what the law says, but then we have the mother law, the Constitution. And we've got the institutions. And every time, you remember when you hosted the EACC here and the IEBC, and we asked them, so you're all sitting here and telling us, blame Parliament and the law that they gave us. It's not us. Our hands are tied. We would like to bar these people. But you see, now, in fact, now the burden moves to the voter. The voter, why are you electing somebody whom you know is of questionable integrity and character? My argument is that if these institutions actually do serve public interest, then they'd put public interest first.
Yeah.
And the individual, individuals have a right, blah, 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 to fair administrative justice. Yeah. But which is bigger, individual or public?
It's public. It's a public interest.
So if IEBC, for example, just went with public interest and said, yes, Mr. So-and-so, you have been found guilty by a court. You have been sentenced to 67 years in prison. You have that appeal going on. We shall not clear you. Mr. So-and-so, go to court.
Yeah.
Let's have that sorted.
Yeah.
And hopefully then we find a court that is also willing to look at public interest and say, indeed, when the magistrate's court found you guilty and you've gone out to start appealing, the burden now shifts. You remain guilty. And I think that's where I say all is not lost if the judiciary the EACC, the IEBC took public interest to heart.
Yeah. And that's a simple thing we're asking Eric, because individual interests trump public interests. And if you look at Article 3 of our Constitution, every person, including those institutions who we have put in place to ensure that this Constitution is implemented, are supposed to ensure that you respect, you uphold, and defend, protect the Constitution. But to be honest, right now, I'm not seeing that protection. Where you say, my hands are tied, and you've been saying this for the last 5 years, actually 10 years, because we passed this Constitution in 2010. So 2013, 2017, and now going on to 2022, we are seeing that Chapter 6 may not be enforced, and we'll see the same. In fact, the leadership quality is getting worse when you look at how many people with issues are passing through that pipeline. But if we're able to look at the public interest over individual interest, because some of the arguments I've had, but these guys also have their rights. If they're in court, it doesn't mean that they're guilty. And yes, under principles of natural justice, of course, you're presumed innocent until proven guilty. But when something it touches on public, when it touches on public office, but even once you're proven guilty, we are still seeing them being cleared. You see, so I mean, it doesn't even make sense for us. But I think the other matter is I get this argument that, these politicians also have their rights, that you're going to stop someone from vying for 5 years, keeping them in the cold because their issue is still being processed. And I'm like, but what about the public interest?
Sheila, how are we keeping them out? Were we with them when they committed whatever offense that took them to court and were we part of the process that found them guilty or culpable? No. We are going by what the court said. If the court had cleared them, they would have been saying, this person is actually innocent.
Exactly.
It is not our view.
Yeah.
It is an understanding of what our court process has arrived at.
Yeah.
But what I find, let me ask this question. Do you think the Constitution Implementation Commission, do you think it was the right judgment, right decision to have it last for only 5 years? I'm asking this question because every time we have an issue, I'm thinking, but why did they shut the... It isn't the only one.
It was 3 years.
It was 5 years.
Your pet subject.
No, it is my pet subject.
The Commission for the Implementation of the Constitution and the Transition Authority.
Precisely. How do you stop these authorities, these commissions, after one season, one electoral cycle, when we are having problems that they ought to be the bodies that was helping us resolve even now?
Yes,
so
but
maybe the Constitution should ask.
But City, one of the points is that the expectation is that institutions are set up and will then execute their mandates under fear of the Constitution. In the interest of the Constitution, that's the assumption. Of course, this has not happened. So you don't want to have oversight institutions being perennially oversighted.
Wait, but don't we have the other commissions, independent commissions that are there for life?
Yes,
but
that's the point I'm making.
Institutions that have been established. CIC was established.
I understand.
So the point
to help come up with the laws.
I understand.
To give life to the Constitution. You come up with the laws, you go home.
Chapter 15.
But 5 years is too short a time.
But
it wouldn't have changed anything because
it would have changed anything.
The Chapter 15 institutions, their primary role is the defense and protection of the Constitution in letter and spirit. So whatever IEBC is doing is actually unconstitutional because it is not just EACC that's supposed to uphold the Constitution. They all are. But unfortunately, they become party to politics. And let me just put another perspective on this. Number one good thing that we've seen is that once impeached, you remain impeached.
Yes.
Also, if dismissed, you remain dismissed. So it takes it back into an administrative process. In a way, that is a good thing, because if our administrative processes work properly, then we'll begin culling these people, as opposed to waiting for this long legal process. It then goes back to the question of the public service and the impartiality of those processes, because what we might begin to see happening is the governor will come and say, now, if I misbehave, my public service is going to undermine me. And so we now need to keep an eye on the objectivity of the public service vis-a-vis dismissals of CECs and all of that. The other point I wish to make, and this is now going a little bit philosophical, on why are we struggling here with the IEBC and the EACC. Wandi Anjoya talks about a class that dare not speak its name, and she quotes an article, a piece on this, The Tyranny of the New Kenyan Middle Class, where she says, even as they exert coercive power in Kenya, members of this class remain largely unrecognized as a class with its own economic interests and one that holds contemptuous and racist views of Africans despite being made of Africans. Very nice article published in The Elephant. And she goes on to argue that our problem, because we keep looking at our political elite, she's saying there is a whole bureaucracy of a middle class professional elite as well that is undermining the implementation of the Constitution, and this is the case. It's these IEBC officials
Am I
who
allowed
aren't
to disagree
elected,
with Dr. Wandia?
who aren't elected but act in their own private interest.
Disagree, obviously.
Okay. You see, what you've read sounds really nice. When you think about it, you say, yes, let's now find a new class of people to apportion blame to, okay? IEBC apportion the blame to the voter. We apportion the blame to the politicians. Now, Dr. Wandia apportions it to the middle class. The understanding that I derive from that article is that the middle class are a hugely influential group of people. Exactly. Okay? And that they are the ones who we can look at as the carriers of our ethos as a community. And I'm saying, no, that is not so. That particular distinction belongs to a class of people who fall into that broad category of the middle class, but they are called the politicians who have been elected. Because if you look at their conduct in the place of employment, it's called parliament, and the things that they know they're supposed to do and the things they then do, those things have these far-reaching consequences that we're now speaking of. Because had they had the very attributes that we assume they had, we wouldn't be having this discussion, because they would have known what to do, and this bar we keep speaking of, we would be talking about it still. But when that group of people go in and completely bastardize a whole section of the Constitution to the point where it's completely ineffectual, I will not take the argument to the broad middle class. I will take it to this particular specific group of individuals.
Those ones have failed.
Why create a dichotomy?
Those ones have failed. But then,
yes,
the checks and balances.
Why create a dichotomy?
Who has a louder and a more influential voice in actually calling them out? In calling out the political class when they fail? In calling out the political class when they don't do what they're supposed to be doing?
Also,
is it not the people who have access to the information readily?
Also, Eric, these are people who are bound by Article 232 of the Constitution that binds them to uphold the values of the Constitution. So they are equally bound as public officers. And if you look at, and I think that example was given recently where Donald Trump called some election, was it a returning officer in Georgia, trying to get them to, doctor the results.
To rejig the results.
To rejig the results. And the officer refused because he had the force of his office. So in Kenya, why don't we have, and we have a petition we launched against the CS Yatani. Not because he's solely responsible for the debt crisis. We know that's a bigger political issue, but because he's allowed his office to be misused on record, his office is cited by the Auditor General as violating the law, serially. So how do we deal with these public officers who hide behind their office because they are not publicly elected, and they agree to conduct themselves in an unconstitutional and illegal manner and subvert the course of law? So it's not exonerating politicians, but they are also part of the problem.
Maybe, can I just add something, just in addition to that? Because what I have not seen in some of our institutions is that courage and boldness.
Exactly.
Because the Constitution already gives you that mandate to operate. And so for me, like on the issue of Chapter 6, what's so hard in telling this politician, no, we're not clearing you.
Yeah.
And if you contest it, you take the matter to court. But for now, you stand not cleared. Let me just give you, I think this issue needs also attention. The fact that there's an MP who's been in court for the last, now it's almost, is it 8 years, over the authenticity of his academic certificates.
8 years.
But it was cleared on Monday, and the returning officer said that all the papers were okay, were fine when they, of course, scrutinized them. But I'm like, these are the same papers that are a
Subject of a court case.
Yeah, a subject of a court case, that they were fake. And that's why I'm like, where is our boldness to just say no, that you know that this person has, there's a whole debate that, and even the school that he says he went to, the headmaster during that time, I said, no, this was not my student. But then you take his certificate and you don't have the courage to say no.
Because
then
that's
why
exactly,
are you serving in public
this is
office?
exactly where we lie.
Yeah.
That we can be philosophical about this until the cows come home.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, the issue is that we have an inherent knowledge of what is right and what is wrong. That's what we are doing when we're talking about morals and ethics. So it would then give the impression that if you, as whatever institution or as an individual, cannot stand up and say no, that what you're doing is that you are sitting in a position where you don't want to ruffle any feathers, or you just don't want to call it as it is, then you are the problem.
You are the problem.
That is it. We can read as many 1 million books as we want, but at the end of the day, it is that you know what is right to do, you choose not to do it, you're just as criminally liable as this individual that we're having a discussion about.
Yeah.
But
Say
also, this debating society that comprises what we are referring to as the middle class and the social media warriors, it is a debating society. Okay, one could argue that debate at some point gives direction and points. But for many people and in many instances, it seems to be an end in itself. You've participated in arguing, you've contributed, you've talked about what you want, you've taken a hard position, and that's it.
Yeah.
But Siti, I put it to you, every player has their role.
Yes.
So KOT's role is to amplify, to bring the issue to the attention of the public. That public officer has, by power of the pen, and there is one colleague, a former public service person who was telling me, when he was first employed, he approved something, and he was amazed that out of that, billions of shillings were released to go and do work. And of course, they went to do work. And he said, this is the power that I wield as a public officer, unseen, unknown to anybody but the public service and his and her colleagues. So the point we are making is that the law does not implement itself. It's implemented at the point where it's designed and legislated by our politicians. Then it comes to the public service who go ahead to implement it. Now, if the public service don't do their job, and these guys, politicians, also don't do their job, what's going to happen? Who's going to help us? And Kenyans, okay, will vote for a thief.
What you're saying is
but
already happening,
Kenyans are very disenchanted because they view their inability to influence the outcome because the power is with the politicians and the public service. So what we are saying is we see these guys and we have to hold them accountable, as Ndu has so eloquently said. Yeah. I hope we've convinced you that.
What is the issue with the middle class? You have an issue.
Public service middle class.
No, it's not an issue. It is the reality of what I see. First of all, that class doesn't even exist in this country. But by the time you're living from hand to mouth, you cannot be in the middle class. Okay? And the majority of the people we consider, you're one salary away from poverty. So how do you actually claim to be in the middle class? The only difference...
Professional class.
Professional class is a good term, okay? Their voice is not insignificant. What I'm saying is this. Beyond talking, writing about these issues, this very group of individuals are the same individuals who are the companions of the so-called leadership class, the politicians and what have you. They're the people who are the campaign managers, whatever it is you want to call them. Now, they don't seem to believe that these high standards need to be upheld, because if they did, many of them would hold these very people they support to account, and they don't. And the reason why these people have the impunity is because they know they have a support system that agrees with how they go about their business. So that's why you asked about the issue. So why are you talking loudly about an issue which in reality you don't actually even support? Not in reality. So long as it's talking, writing about it, you're right in the middle of it. But the actuality of it, the reality of it, no. You're complicit in the problems that we are talking about. That really is my beef.
You see, I, as Eric, as member of the public, have not sworn any oath of office.
Exactly. To uphold anything.
This person who is the CEO of the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, who is the chairman of the IEBC, they swore an office, witnessed by the Chief Justice. And they said, I swear I shall uphold the Constitution. That is it.
You know.
And by doing that, they got delegated authority from me. And that's
then
what
you
they're
want to come and
exercising.
behave later as though
Let
you
them
cannot be
do
bold
it.
enough to uphold the same thing that
Coming
you
back
swore
to
you
me
would
and
do.
telling me, it's Parliament, and now it's upon you on August 9th not to elect somebody if you know that this person is a thief. Come on.
What
dereliction
if,
of
what
duty.
if they did their job? What if? Just ask how different Kenya would be if they did because politicians don't implement the law; they only make it.
But maybe if I look at it holistically, I think just connecting this argument is our whole accountability system is just flawed, because ideally the people we put in office should be checked by, like now when you're talking about IEBC, they go to Parliament, to report and share their reports to Parliament and so on. But so who checks who? So there's a whole question around our accountability system that we also need to look at. And I still wouldn't put, I know we shouldn't all load it on citizens, but I still will not remove citizens out of it, because at the end of it, we are the ones who are electing those politicians who are supposed to hold some of these institutions accountable. They're supposed to legislate and ensure our laws are implementing this constitution, but are we holding them to account? Are we checking and ensuring that politician I sent to Bunge has been able to do ABCD? We've been complaining about Chapter 6 and the Leadership and Integrity Act for the last 9-10 years. What's my Bunge doing about it? So I wouldn't say that citizens are totally not culpable and part of it, and that's why I know that we are also, as part of the red card, we're also encouraging social vetting. These are the questions we should be asking those people that are going to be coming back home. I'm saying back home because they've disappeared for 5 years and then they're about to come back home to ask for the vote. So when they come back home, please, those are the things we need to now really interrogate and ensure that there are people who can actually deliver on some of the things that we are complaining about.
One thing, Sheila.
Yeah.
One thing that we all ought to accept is that Kenyans really do trust and expect the institutions to work.
Yes.
Okay? When the police come and tell you, tokeni kwa nyumba, people come out of the house. They'll ask questions later. When the chief comes and tells you, kaa kwa nyumba, you'll stay in the house. When IEBC tells you, choose from this list, you expect that they have done their job. All those things notwithstanding, you guys are the ones who understand the law. I don't know, chapter 195, those things. I, as a voter, don't understand. So I expect that you've done all those things and you're giving me a list that has gone through them chujo.
Yeah.
And that's it.
That's it. When you go to a
At
restaurant,
this point, as much as yes, we may say yes, the voter, blah, 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 but I want to get to a point where, as a voter, I trust my institutions. That they have done their job, and I'm only now selecting based on what I've heard and what I'm thinking is this person understands my issues.
And what appeals to you?
You've put it so well. And in fact, I was having a conversation with a taxi driver this week and talking about elections, as you'll do when you're in that situation. And I mentioned this issue of vetting. And he said, our place, we have a very bad MP. And we'd like to get him out. So I told him, so why don't you get together with your men group and everything? He said, the problem is this MP bribes the women's groups. He consistently bribes them. And he went on to explain. And, because I was telling him red card, people in Langata and Kileleshwa and other places are vetting. He said, we can't, because this guy bribes the women MPs. And then I said, why don't you report to EACC? He said, that one is difficult. They can come for you. And I realized, and then he went on to say how this MP gives all the contracts to a company owned by his brother. So there are Kenyans there who sit and can see and are,
feeling powerless.
Are really powerless.
Because they expect the institutions that they've given power
to be able to
do their
deal
job.
with it. Yeah.
Coming to the top of the hour, Sheila, we thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you for this opportunity. And my last call, can I just make a last call?
Make it a positive one. I think I don't want to enter on a negative one.
I'm really positive that this time for sure we will have, if not if not the whole 25 that we have, at least we'll have a couple of people blocked because of many of the initiatives that we have taken, particularly through the courts, and we're really looking up to the courts. We know that the Chief Justice Kome has set up a three judge bench to look into all the integrity cases. There are a number of them, and I get confident because it's not just us who've taken these cases, but also citizens. We're talking about citizens as well. So I believe that if citizens continue to take up some of these petitions and issues, then we'll continue to push on further on Chapter 6. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sheila Masinde is the Executive Director of Transparency International Kenya. She has been here with us talking about the Red Card campaign. Keep it here for more conversations on SpiceFM and online. It's now 9 a.m.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i is expected to chair a security meeting comprising of senior police and national government administration officers. The meeting is scheduled to take place at the Administration Police Training College in Bekasi at 11:30 a.m. Thereafter, the CS is also expected to be the guest speaker at the Anglican Muranga South Diocese Cathedral in Kano. The discussion, which is to commence at 2:30 p.m., will delve into a discussion on what role the church is playing in securing successful and peaceful elections. Kenya's next general election will take place on August 9th, and the CS seeks to give direction on what the security will look like during that process. Now, Deputy President William Ruto says he will not attend the presidential debate, citing marginalization by a section of media houses in the news coverage. In a statement released by the Directive Campaign, Hussein Mohammed, Kenya Kwanza terms the debate as a platform already geared to put presidential aspirants down to the advantage of others. The Kenya Kwanza presidential aspirant further stated that there was continuous propaganda being peddled by a section of mainstream media in abuse of statutory terms of license, further violating constitutional freedom. The statement further stated political news is a matter of public interest, and its coverage, therefore, according to the Media Council Act of 2013, has to be done fairly, accurately, and with all sides of the story being reported. Now, the number of committees in the National Assembly may increase in the next parliament if a motion before the House is approved. The motion proposes for the formation of new committees as well as splitting of others. Among committees that will be formed include the Diaspora and Immigration Committee, the Public Debt and Privatization Committee, the Decentralized Accounts Fund Committee, and the Public Petitions Committee. There is also a proposition to divide the Public Investments Committee. The committee also wants the number of chairpersons on the Speaker's panel to be increased from 4 to 6. And the Employment and Labour Relations Court has quashed the appointment of Bernard Jiraine as the CEO of Kenya Bureau of Standards, saying it was unconstitutional. Days after a petition by Okoh Mtata challenging the appointment, saying Jiraine was ranked 6th in the interviews conducted by the Public Service Commission and was therefore not eligible for appointment. In a judgment, Justice Maureen Ongaya said the presence of the 14th respondent, who is Jiraine, over the best 3 candidates has not been satisfactorily explained. She added that the same was in violation of the policy to pick from the best 3 candidates who scored the highest in the interviews. At the same time, the court quashed the appointment of the chairperson and independent members of the National Standards Council. And Kenya is making rapid progress in the construction of its part of the Great Trans-African Highway that runs from Cairo in Egypt to South Africa's Cape Town. The 84-kilometer Kenol-Sagana-Marua Highway, which runs through the central Kenya, is being upgraded from a single-lane road to a dual carriageway. It is expected to be completed in 6 months, 2 years earlier than scheduled. The roadway connects Nairobi with major commercial and agriculturally important towns in central, upper eastern and northern Kenya. Plans for this section of the Great Trans-African Highway began nearly 40 years ago. However, construction began only after the African Development Bank stepped in 2019 to finance the project. And Britain will offer work visas to graduates from the world's best universities in an expansion of its post-Brexit immigration system that is designed to attract the best and brightest workers. But no African universities are included in the list of eligible institutions. Under the scheme, graduates with a bachelor's or master's degree from the top 50 universities abroad can apply for a 2-year work visa and will be allowed to bring family members with them. Those who receive doctorates can apply for a 3-year visa. Successfully, applicants will then be able to switch to longer-term employment visas. That is according to the UK government. A gunman killed at least 4 people at a hospital building in Tulsa, Oklahoma. According to police, the latest in a string of mass shootings across the United States in recent weeks. The killings come as Texas families bury their dead after a school shooting left 19 young children dead just 8 days earlier. The Tulsa shooting suspect was armed with a rifle and handgun during his attack on the St. Francis Hospital campus and died by suicide. And South Korea's ruling party won a landslide victory in local elections for leaders of major cities and provinces, according to officials, giving newly elected President Yoon Suk-yeol a significant boost. An old anti-feminist and political novice, Yoon won the March presidential election narrowest margin ever and faces an opposition-controlled National Assembly. This is Newswire. Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
All right, traffic situation not too bad this Friday. A bit of a slippery situation in some parts of the city, but nothing too crazy. So yes, thank goodness. Langata Road, that traffic that was there earlier has reduced significantly. Lunga Lunga still doing the thing right now, and that's connecting with Likoni onto the interchange on Mombasa Road, on the Thika Superhighway. Yeah, okay, just a little bit past that to Tally Drift, then going towards the Pagani underpass. And then we've got some traffic on Limuru Road, in and outbound. Parkland's not doing too badly this morning. So, okay. So traffic hour ended early today. We'll keep an eye on things through the morning. Let's talk on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down.
It is 7 minutes
This
after 9.
is the
Good morning. If
Situation
you're just
Room,
joining us,
the only
happy
way
Friday.
to start
It's
your
the 3rd day of March 2022. Kenya's biggest conversation continues on SpiceFM, on YouTube, and on Facebook. Wanjiru Gikonyo, our guest host, is still with us in the studio, and she will hear today's proverb for the 4th time.
Why are you limiting it to 4? See, I can say it twice even, so that is fine.
You're being censured.
It's limiting me.
Yes.
You can win a woman with lies, but you cannot feed her with lies.
You can win a voter with lies, but you cannot feed a voter.
Or better still, you can win a woman with lies and then she can feed you, so that your lies just stay with you. But you're being fed.
Or she can be fed elsewhere.
Yes, exactly. Okiki, Okoko, Okeke.
Okeke, bring home the chicken.
Yes.
Wanjiru, do you know that story?
No, I do not know that story.
Do, please.
I do not know that story. It sounds too interesting.
Once upon a time,
there was Okeke and his wife. So it had been a while since Okeke's wife had eaten chicken, herself and her children. So he told her, my wife, today I will bring chicken. Okay, very good. Came home. Okay, where is chicken? Don't worry. Tomorrow, I bring chicken. Okay, no Allah, we sleep. Wake up in the morning. Okay, came back. Okay, where is chicken? I said, don't worry, my wife. Tomorrow, I bring you chicken.
You eat egg.
For now, let's sleep. No
And
Allah.
vegetable, good for you.
Yes.
They slept.
Yes.
It was tomorrow, market day.
Yes.
For sure, Okeke will come back with chicken. After all, it's market day.
Yes.
He passes the place where they are selling chicken,
And
right?
he has said he's
And he
bringing.
has said he's bringing chicken. Yesterday he didn't bring. Day before yesterday he didn't bring. Today he must bring. Okeke came back. Okeke, where is chicken? Don't worry. Tomorrow.
Definitely.
This tomorrow that never comes.
This one is going to come tomorrow.
I will bring chicken tomorrow. Okay. Tomorrow came, no chicken. The next day now, Okeke came back from wherever he goes when he goes. There's no woman in the house. There's nobody. Where? Asked people, where is my wife? That's how they told him, check. That's how he looked at the neighbor's house, knocked on the door. Inside the man's house, Okeke's wife is sitting down. Doing what?
Eating
chicken.
Oh.
Welcome. You want a piece? Welcome.
The accuracy of the symbolism aside, I think I'm a little bit offended at the thought that a woman's entire existence is based on her entire interest in her husband is based
Focus on the
eating
moral of
chicken.
the story.
Focus on the moral of the story.
I don't go deeper.
Not go deeper if you wish, but focus on the moral of the story.
You better deliver the goods.
There are options.
Or we shall find them elsewhere.
People who aspire to be politicians and have attained their aspiration, yes, get this proverb better than most people, because you will find. I will bring a road, doesn't come. I'll bring a hospital, doesn't come. So you need. They haven't asked you, it's you saying you will bring it. And even when they ask, you say. Come
And
the
the
election.
person, and the person who can deliver, that's like that neighbor who was probably at the fence listening every day.
Yes.
Okeke is telling his wife, he'll bring chicken. Tomorrow, do
The
not
issue
bring.
is
And
chicken.
I have chicken. And I have wait.
And this is, the wife has asked for the chicken.
She didn't ask for much.
Chicken.
She didn't ask for a cow. She asked for chicken.
The neighbor listening to the ground.
Yes. Delivery.
Went behind. Is it behind the tent?
Yes. See me behind the tent.
So neighbor became delivery unit. Delivered chicken.
The symbolism is very apt.
So decisions are made at the ballot. Just continuing that conversation, and then we can open up this to the public, right? The voter has a responsibility on August 9th to exercise their democratic right, to take your sovereignty and decide who you're going to delegate it to, institutions and elected officers. So, and that is the whole importance of August 9th. You know, you're choosing leaders who will go and represent you, who will go and deliver the chicken. Okay. There's the issue of the integrity of not the voter, but the candidates. Voters' integrity, that is neither here nor there. It shall never be an issue. We will never discuss the voters' integrity.
Of course, it's an issue.
No, we will not discuss it because it is not a requirement for the voter to be A, in existence, B, to cast their ballot.
What do you mean it's not a requirement?
It's not.
All you need is your ID.
All you need is to be a citizen of Kenya.
Right.
And an adult.
Right.
And a registered voter.
Right.
There is no precondition for you to be a registered voter. Oh, are you...
Or like that. But there
are you
is,
of high moral standing?
There is a requirement on your conduct. You should not receive a bribe. You should not. Yes, there are. Integrity cuts both ways.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
So the voter also has.
You shall not receive.
You shall not receive.
How do you know it?
You shall not solicit.
Solicit? Yes. Solicit is clear.
Yeah. You shall not engage in. There's conduct that there are restrictions or standards that also guide voter behavior. So it's two-way traffic.
You know
But the point you are making, because you are laying out a thesis for us.
Yeah. So.
Ulisahau.
Carry on.
So, okay.
So the point is, the question we are asking is, will this leader bring home the chicken, nurture the chicken so it can breed, bring other chickens, or will they go and eat the chicken? Sell the chicken to the highest bidder and all those kind of things.
The fact that we go to the ballot to elect leaders tells you that people in this country do not have a problem with the delegating powers to people. They do not. And when people say that the voter of the simple common mwananchi doesn't understand the law, they actually do. Roles, they actually do. And that is why they happily pay their taxes. Even if sometimes they are a little unhappy, they still pay it in the understanding that after paying it, these taxes will come back to make their lives better, and that there are people who are entrusted with the power. That's what they're doing to ensure that this actually happens. Now, so when they make the demand to actually see what it is that they were promised, and then they're then told, actually, it is your fault.
Exactly.
It is you who should. And they say, but wait, have we not done our bit? Are you not abrogating the very duties that we asked you to do, whether you're a public servant or whether you're... Now, when you have this debate, whether it is the IEBC, whether it is which institution, somehow, whenever they are asked to do what they're supposed to do, they seem to say back and say, actually, you know something? This particular function, let's take it back to the very people who accepted to give you the position.
To you.
Yes, exactly. So,
scapegoatism.
Yes. So,
and this isn't an easy campaign. We had a lot of reflection. In fact, we said, do we call it the red card campaign? We don't want to sound like we're naming and shaming. We don't want to focus too much on individuals and campaign them, because sometimes you can bring out a name, stress on it, and you create notoriety or name recognition for somebody or sympathy. It can cut both ways.
But so be it.
The point is, we had a lot of introspection and reflection. And the reason we continue to do the red card, and as TISA, we weren't in the red card in 2017, we joined this time. And the reason we joined is because we recognize that bad leaders means bad laws, means the years between elections are messed up. Because these guys are busy interfering with our due processes.
Yep.
They then are bribed and make bad appointments to key institutions. The impact is not just having somebody who's of questionable integrity. It's just that when they get there, they then undermine the entire process. So we are fighting against the grain. We are inviting Kenyans to come on board the red card, follow the campaign, do the vetting where you're able, really spread the gospel so that we can make this the dominant narrative, not the, kind of like a very ancillary discussion.
There's another expectation, like we've said, of the voter. Okay, so we look at the various institutions. We have the three arms of government. We've got the constitutional commissions. We've got the other institutions established by law. Then we also understand that our law will recognize a group of individuals or institutions called the civil society. Okay, and there's law that governs civil society registration and oversighting, right?
More or less.
Yes. The expectation of the society is that we also shall have people who, from whatever source, whether they volunteer, whether they, people who are active and they engage, and they shall be protected by law to engage. Now, those people, we are not expecting them to come and engage us. We are expecting them to go and check those ones. So when those civil society organizations come together and they bring us the red card, we're also wondering, Take IEBC to court. Stop telling me about red card and don't vote for Major Waluke.
I had that discussion with a cousin of mine who was like, he's like, what is it you want us to do? Where is civil society? Why are these criminals being... And I'm like, everyone has to play their role because we're in a captured state. And a captured state means those in power are undermining institutions that would serve us. So we all have to play our role. As civil society, we are doing what we can. You've heard we've gone to court. We'll go to court again. But we are not one civil society. Even you are a member of the civil society, maybe not a registered, organized one.
Yeah.
So as an individual, if this is your MP and you're really feeling aggrieved, take it to court. Link up with an institution. Public interest litigation can now be any citizen. As you've seen with Omtata, any citizen can actually go to court. That is a provision of this particular constitution, where before you had to get a clearance by the DPP to go to court. So we have to become active citizens to push back against this. We have to then reject them at the ballot to the extent that...
We all have a role to play, okay? There are many people who, like the taxi driver that you just told us about, are aware. They have conversations within their small groups, and that is enough. They are aware, they are alert, and they will exercise their right at the ballot with all that in hindsight. And then there are others who will have been manipulated because of their status, which it starts from the very beginning. Disenfranchise this person, make them dependent, then come and lure them with money, and then, get them to that position. All right?
It doesn't excuse it, though.
It doesn't excuse it, but context of this person and where they are is okay. What do I do? So their lenses are sort of blurred.
I don't know about
that.
that.
And there are people whose lenses are blurred by the circumstances that they find themselves in on a daily basis. So if this politician came and sorted me out, all the institutions failed. There are bursaries from the president all the way to the MCA. But none of them came through for me to take my child to school.
Except
this person. Then their lenses are blurred. You come and tell me this person is a thug. He took my child to school. At least I owe him that. I owe him a sense of gratitude.
And he actually said it was the bursaries.
Yes.
Probably the CDF.
I don't think
he sorted me out. Even if he came and said, this is from my own pocket. I hear, yes, the bursaries have failed, but here, Eric, take your child to school.
Go sort it out
My friend,
now.
I'm going to vote for that person.
Exactly. Yes. I don't think we can run away from the competing elements here, also then when it comes to citizen participation in all of this. Because, unfortunately, the reality for a lot of folks is what they're competing with on a daily basis. That's why I also agree that this middle class that we talk about, who are one paycheck away from poverty in this country today, that when you're thinking about survival, you're thinking about that person who maybe has been in your purview at that point and sorted you out from a situation. It's uncomfortable to say, but that's the reality that a lot of people are facing today. Can we get to a place whereby people are active to the point whereby they are not, wholly taken up by the situation that they're dealing with? Take your pick. It's school, sending children to school today. It's putting food on your table tomorrow. It is healthcare the next day. It is reliable anything.
It's water. It's sanitation.
Every and anything. We cannot run away from that reality that, look, that's what's filling up the minds of many folks today. And so when that individual who rocks up tomorrow and says, well, okay, you have a situation that I can sort out today and I sort it out for you, you owe him unconsciously. And that's what happens. You owe him or her your allegiance.
That person becomes your friend.
Immediately.
He's a friend.
The situation
in
that was
need.
causing you heartache today.
Yeah.
The entire national conversation set aside, this person has filled the gap for which you did not see how you were going to close in on today.
Yeah. And that's why I, in a sense, agree with Dr. Njoya. We may argue about the definition of the middle class, but the issue is those who have access to information, those who have access to platforms. What are we doing about that? And then those like yourselves who have even greater access, in the civil society, and they're active and you've dedicated your life to this. We give you our gratitudes, but also we support you silently and all, but we support you. Now make sure that bursaries reach me. Make sure that I'm able to take my kids and my family to hospital should there be need. Make sure that that happens. Then by and by, I will not then be confused by the leader based on what they've done for me.
We all have a role to play. Agreed. Totally agreed. I mean, even as civil society, I think we've recognized we have to do more to connect good governance to good livelihoods. The argument that we're making with that member of parliament who gives bursaries, but then is very corrupt, all the tenders are given to a family member, the quality of the work is poor. You know, we should be in that particular constituency saying that's why there are no jobs, because these contracts should go to the widest number of people. So we have recognized our messaging has to change. We have to show the costs of poor governance, because this cost of living, yes, it's partly Ukraine, yes, it's partly COVID, but it's a large part
inherently
mismanagement.
Here. Absolutely. And look, I mean, I'm not running away. I appreciate the chicken and egg situation, right? Because we are saying, so if we put in leaders who get these things done, so that you're not worrying on a daily about these basic things that we're talking about, then maybe to an extent that would have sorted out the situation. But then you go back on the other side and you say, well, look, I'm in this situation anyway. So the person who's going to come and sort me out, let me deal with them right now. And then we move on. So we get into this cyclical, thing of over and over. At the end of the day, though, I mean, again, that picture of these men and women lying in the streets in Thome a few weeks ago, waiting for the bursary office to open at 4 a.m. so that they can get 5,000 shillings, which is inadequate to send their children to school, will never be removed from my mind. So can you imagine somebody who comes to that woman who is lying on the street and says, I'm not going to give you 5,000 shillings, right? I want to be governor of whatever tomorrow, and I have 50,000 shillings that is going to sort out your problem as you see it today. What do you think she's going to do tomorrow? In that moment, do you think she's worried about, let me go to my chama of people and let's talk about good governance tomorrow? Let me go and engage with the women. Do you think she's thinking about that at that point?
And probably not. And the thing is, that woman who is looking for this bursary has probably already made arrangements for her own water.
Yep.
Made arrangements for garbage disposal.
Yep.
Made arrangements for what else? Her own health care. Her power, not knowing she's paying for that.
Yep.
Exactly.
That we pay this government twice because they tax us.
She knows that she's paying for it. But
does she? Do Kenyans know they pay for it?
Yes.
Do Kenyans know that
Kenyans know
they
that they have paid for it and they expect it. But then you're at that point, you have paid for it, you expect it, your child is sick.
You need to do something.
What are you going to do?
You wait.
I think somebody who knows you paid for it and that money is being squandered because somebody has bought property in Dubai or is doing whatever, instead of using your taxpayers' tax money to serve you.
Yep.
Somebody who has that awareness will be engaged and conscious. Yes. I think somebody who hasn't really thought it
Let
through.
me prove it to you that they actually are engaged and conscious.
Yes, they are.
67% of parliamentarians or more don't come back.
That is true.
It's because this person is fully aware that this is what I expected. I have expectations of you. I pay taxes. Tunalipa ushuru, wanakula pesa yetu, wanakula tunyanyasa, all those things. And that's why they look for the alternative.
That is true.
Maybe this person, because they came to me in my hour of need and they understood me, the way we connected, this person is actually promising to do something better.
Absolutely.
And that's why I do not want to listen to CT anymore. I will listen to Wanjiru and give Wanjiru my vote this time. Wanjiru disappears.
Which goes back to the point you are making. It's the IEBC to clear good candidates.
Yes.
Because Kenyans are doing their part, they are sending them home.
Yes.
We do our part every single day, faithfully. You see, there are those who are of the view that this simple Mwananchi doesn't understand. We are of the view they do understand. That they're helpless. They are not. They are a practical lot. Kenyans are a practical lot. What is it that I need to do on a daily basis? I need to survive I need to make sure my children go to school, they eat, whatever it is that I need to do. That takes center stage.
Of course it does.
So all the other things that we talk about, it's not that they don't think there's something they can do, but it's the same time they have for eking a living that they would need. So opportunity cost. What do you think is going to take priority in their lives? That what you see Kenyans do on a daily basis, they are telling you this is our priority. The other things you say, we understand. We even know we are being robbed blind. It's not that we don't know. But what do I need to do, I, as this Kenyan, to be able to just get by today?
Yep.
In fact, this week
which is
in
where
Contract-
CT, Dr. Njoya now says,
Yeah.
this person who has an extra 2 hours in their day, 3 hours in their day, that they are able to say, all right, you know what, I'm going to go to Mombasa, to Vasha, to whatever, whether it's borrowed, whether they're heavily indebted, but they are able to, okay? They could dedicate a little bit more time on more active engagement.
But
because they have access to the information, they have access to platforms that they can raise a voice on, and they have access to time. Not much, but they do have access to time. So can they engage better?
But the heart of the article I was quoting, first of all, it was on the BBI, but the heart of her argument was the public service and saying these people have real power, real coercive power over the lives of Kenyans, because by the stroke of a pen, like
your green pen.
Your friend.
My friend was saying, by the stroke of a pen, things happen. So do they have the courage to do the right thing? Yeah.
A big question. 9:30, Kenya's biggest conversation, KRA and the alternative dispute resolution mechanism. City, please explain to Wanjiru.
You may, if you have an email address, have encountered many messages that
assuming
you have an email address, and that KRA has that same email address that you have.
Me?
No, not you. You here
okay.
is not you, Wanjiru. It's you in the third person. Okay?
Right.
Now you will find messages from KRA. Don't get scared. That is KRA reaching out, telling you, "Excuse me, I really would like us to have a conversation, and let's begin by you understanding what it is that I am saying." Now, further to that, there is a discussion that KRA wants the Kenyan citizenry to understand, that KRA isn't a monster seeking to destroy you. When you get a message from them demanding certain monies from you, that is their understanding of what you own and then what you owe. Now, if you disagree, alternate dispute resolution mechanisms exist, and they're saying they understand it and they are amenable to having a discussion with you with such a body. Bring your problems, they will tell you their understanding. They will take this matter before this independent institution, and a resolution will be sought. Now, the beauty of this process is that it doesn't go beyond 90 days. But you will have your say. They will have their say. And as much as is humanly possible, an amicable solution will be sought. And within 90 days, hopefully arrived at. Now that is a positive thing.
It is. Let's take a break. We'll open up the phone lines after this break. 0719-012-600. We all have a role to play come August 9th in getting the right leaders. What role do the citizens have? What role do the public officers have?
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
There are so many people peddling what is false, and that it bears remarkable resemblance to what is true.
Politicians have their agenda, and their agenda is to use every opportunity to sell that agenda and to loot this nation.
I have seen major strides that are done in this country when we talk to each other as against talking at each other.
We start getting back into the tribal cocoons which were put to us by the colonial powers. You know, they gave us physical freedom but not mental freedom. We're still mentally colonized today into these cocoons of tribe.
Now, if you live in an area where it's difficult to find a dog,
He's a goat. I kid you not.
In which part of this country is it difficult to find a dog? So that you resort.
Nafande umbo yako iko na pembe.
Kiniumba special.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Sun speaking through those clouds in Nairobi at 17, highs of 24 and lows of 13. It's mostly sunny at 16 in Nakuru, highs of 24 and lows of 13. We'll see a low of 12 in a mostly cloudy Nyeri, currently at 12, going to highs of 22, and 25 will be the high in a sunny Eldoret, currently at 15. Rain showers in Mombasa continue, highs of 28, and we'll see highs of 28 as well in a rainy Malindi. 22 degrees and sunny in Kisumu, highs of 28. We'll see highs of 27 in Kakamega, where it's sunny at 22. Looking out into Kampala, it's sunny now at 24, highs of 26 and highs of 30 will be realized through Friday in Dar es Salaam. It's currently mostly cloudy at 26. 11 degrees and sunny, slightly warming up, highs of 17 and lows of 5 in Johannesburg. It's raining in Lagos at 26, highs of 32. We'll see lows of 26. And Kinshasa is mostly sunny at 24 with highs of 32 today. Out in Beijing, 34 degrees going into early evening Friday, highs of 36 and lows of 21. While at 15, Paris is sunny. It'll go to highs of 25 and 22 will be the high in London, where it's raining this morning. It's 19 degrees and cloudy in New York. We'll see highs of 27 and lows of 16.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM.
It's been a relatively good day in terms of traffic today, in and out of the city. Probably some outbound traffic off the Thika Superhighway, but other parts of the country not seeing much at all today. So, all right, Lunga Lunga still had that problem, and Jogo Road looking really good. Langata Road, that traffic has subsided completely. In the CBD is where you see the most of the action today, coming off the Thika Superhighway as well, just at that Pangani underpass nook. But then after that, you should be all right. Through the morning, let's talk SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
Business news with Spice FM.
I'm Dennis Aseto. Small and medium enterprises sector is projected to contribute 50% of gross domestic product in the next 3 years. Speaking during the Big Baraza conference, SNDB ex-chief executive Joram Winamo says the sector is rapidly growing, with the sector employing over 15 million people, as 7 in every 10 people are employed by SMEs. Sharing the same sentiments, Micro Small Enterprise Authority chairperson James Mureu said more needs to be done to support the SME scale-up. Cooperative Bank of Kenya has been awarded the Best Regional Bank of the Year in East Africa and was recognized for overall excellence in banking in the region. The bank was feted during the 16th edition of the African Banker Awards Gala ceremony, which took place in Ghana. Over 300 banking and financial services professionals joined the ceremony, which was held under the patronage of African Development Bank, being part of the program of the bank's annual meetings. 2 women won 2 of the most prestigious awards, the African Banker Icon and Finance Minister of the Year. Loan defaults are on the rise again despite the continued economic rebound from the depths of COVID-19 pandemic. Data from the Central Bank of Kenya puts the rate of gross non-performing loans for the banking sector at 14.1% in April after a gradual rise in credit impairments at the start of 2022. Gross NLPs have risen from 13.1% in December 2021 and reached 14% in February, to near the rate of credit impairments reached at the height of the pandemic. The African Development Center, Microsoft's premier engineering hub, has announced the appointment of Catherine Muraga as its managing director effective 1st of June 2022. Catherine, a seasoned IT professional with over 15 years of experience, succeeds outgoing MD Jack Ngare, who has led the ADC since its inception in 2019. While welcoming the appointment, Catherine said she is excited to be joining the ADC at this particular time and looks forward to continuing the tremendous work that has already begun. For Spice Business, I'm Dennis Aseto.
Spice FM Business. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
We continue. 0719 012 That's 0719-012-600. I see Karanja from Naivasha is calling. The conversation is with regards to, the election on August 9th. Civil society organizations have come together. They've compiled what they're calling the Red Card campaign. list of 25 individuals who have some questionable integrity. And they're saying, these people, honestly, fellow Kenyans, please, let's avoid them. The EACC received a list of everybody who is applying to be a candidate in this year's election from IEBC. They looked through their files and so do we have an issue with anyone here? Is there an open investigation going on? Is there an open court case going on? Are there issues that have been raised with regards to their academic qualifications, their tax issues? Do they have any matter that's active? And they came up with a list of how many? How many?
241.
Guy.
241.
Guy.
Sorry.
Guy. All those people. And they've given back that list to the IEBC. It's likely that many of those will end up being on the ballot. So, what next? Karanja in Naivasha. Karaja. Oh, no, it's this line. Good morning.
Good morning, Eric.
How are you, my friend?
I'm very fine. You, Okoh?
Yes, sir.
City Muga.
Yes.
And our guest, Wajiro Gekonyo.
Yes. Good morning.
Now, welcome. Wajiro Mekana.
Thank you very much.
Now, this is, I think Kenyans, we have the problem. And if we can exercise our constitution law, the first constitution, which says that sovereignty belongs to the people, I think we shall be on the good track. Number one, why should I, Karaja in Naivasha, vote to somebody who has been synonymous with corruption? His name is synonymous with corruption. To become the president, whether the MP, whether the governor, whether the senator. Number two, ask you to Okoh. How are we going to elect a governor who is corrupt? I think this seat of the governor should be somehow appointed. Governor should have to restructure the constitution so that governors can be appointed like what is in Nigeria. Ask it Okoh, maybe he will tell you what they do.
Governors elected
Number
in Nigeria.
Number three, Eric.
Yes.
I think, look at this picture. When these big governors were taken to court, who are their lawyers? You see big people who are senators, maybe MPs. Okay, you see. So, look another aspect. How comes that somebody, a governor, has gone for 2 terms? Now he is looking for a Senate seat. I think this is something that is obnoxious. Thank you very much, Eric, UNCT.
Thank you, Karanja. Juma in Mombasa, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. I just want to contribute.
Yes, go ahead.
First of all, Eric, I would like to tell you, there is no integrity in Kenya. That word integrity doesn't exist. Even the process of declaring people unfit to vie for this position itself is questionable. For example, let me remind you of IEBC. IEBC is believed to be independent, but are they really independent? You hear, for example, when the commission are facing a difficult decision, they'll avoid making that decision, even if they know the right thing they should do. They'll go and make inquiries to the Attorney General. And who is the Attorney General? Attorney General is the legal advisor of the government. The Attorney General might be knowing the right thing to do, but because he is dancing to the tunes of the government of the day, he ends up misadvising the IEBC. So what Kenyans are asking, among the 241, could there be chances of some people in government who are unhappy with them, who have planted bad things on them, for them to be viewed as people lacking integrity? The problem is Kenyans is the people we appoint to these institutions, before then being appointed, they have integrity. By the moment they assume their offices,
integrity flies out the window. Thank you, Juma. Thank you very much. We hear you. Let's hear from Zachary.
Oh, good morning, people.
Good morning, person.
It's been a while, and Morimandro should know everyone. I was told the other day that his family should know people like Zachary and the rest, yeah?
Yeah, his family should know people who are big in this country.
And in this case, Morimandro, how is you?
I'm very well, thank you, Zachary. You are sounding in very high spirits today. This is a good thing.
Oh, I am, and you guys, you've never given us a chance to call for the last 4 days, but we understand, and we are always with you.
Your complaint has been received well. We shall endeavor to improve.
Yeah, and Wajiro Gikonyo there, my sister.
Yes.
Now, the other day, your namesake brought us some good days from wherever she is.
Uh-huh.
And I told her, there is your namesake in a radio SpiceFM, and although she is not as that sister used to be very harsh to us, okay? Especially me when you were growing up.
Yes.
Making sure that I bathe every day because
Wanjiros make good sisters, mothers, and daughters.
Yes, we like to be maternal and to look after those in our care. So, pass my regards.
Thank you. I will. Now, this is my take, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Everything has been done, Mr. Eric. We congratulate people like you who have been looking at the electoral process. Those of us who have been in class have followed. And I'm telling you that I've been going to so many places, finding people queuing. Queue here, you get your 50, you get your 100. I tell them, no, I can't do that. I'm not of that, whatever. Because I've been going through a certain program that tells me, study on your ground, look for character, yeah? Apart from this, some drama that we are seeing in public, being displayed in public by some very high-profile people that I won't mention, let us actually try to see the lies that we are being told by our politicians. Try to differentiate who is Eric, who is Du, who is Morimandro, and who are the rest, yeah? So that by 9th August, we are going to be going to the ballot as informed people, yeah?
Yep.
And may I request something?
Yes, please.
The other part of me that I have not told you, but I think I've told you, I like classical music, yeah? Very much, and it soothes my soul, yeah? I also like crooners who did the 30s music, the 50s, Nat King Cole, so many. And the one lady stands out. Ella Fitz, can you pronounce that name?
Fitzgerald.
Now I'm going to buy a soda for whoever has pronounced that name. Ella Fitz, I don't know. Now there is this song that she did, yeah? When we say goodbye, okay? I wish you would actually, after the program, because I know my wish could be your command,
we'll play for you that song.
Tell that guy who puts the cue to put that
to
song.
Put that one. When we say goodbye.
When we say goodbye, I would want to listen to it, yeah?
Ella Fitzgerald.
The original version.
Here we don't play 1920s music. Anyway, have a good day, Zachary.
It will be a remake.
Anthony in Mombasa.
Yes, morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Very fine. How are you?
Very well.
Thank you for this hot topic that mumeileta kwa situation. First of all, good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning, Anthony.
Yes. Okay. Straight to the point. Now that the elections are here, there's so little that can be done because apparently now the people who have integrity issues have already been cleared. So in short, let us just say the leaders are not with us. The institutions who are supposed to do the checks and balances
are not
with us.
Yep.
And so far, what you can see is we love passing the buck. At least, let's say after August, come September this year, I think let's change the tone a bit. Let us start taking a small part of the blame where we are supposed to. In short, what I mean is this. It is time now we start getting very active in the legislative part of the government. What do I mean? The integrity clause where they've said that someone needs to be first exhaust all the appeals before they are barred. That clause needs to be removed. The parliamentarians won't do it. So why can't we start thinking about having an amendment from the citizen? I believe it is there in the law.
Yes.
Yes. We
Anthony.
start saying what? Yes.
Citizen-initiated legislation.
Yes.
Yes. What does it take? Do we need to have a fund? Do we need to get signatures? What do we really need?
Right
So
here,
that
right
once
now, Anthony, we are giving this job to Anjiro. Do the homework.
Anthony,
Yes,
I like the way you think, and I totally agree with you. And now that's a challenge to us to think outside the box and to change this game, because our leaders are not with us, like you said. We cannot
Our
wait
leaders are
for
not
our oppressor to come and save us.
Liberate us.
To liberate us.
Exactly.
We must
Because,
liberate
for
ourselves.
example, if I give you a very good example, imagine Sonko has come to Mombasa, an impeached governor, and all of a sudden he's a front runner in Mombasa. What does that say? It's not that the people of Mombasa do not know who Sonko is, do not know that he was impeached, but whatever circumstances that have been there for the last 10 years, it is better we have this guy who is like A, B, and C. So the people who have decided Sonko is best for Mombasa, they know his background. But whatever is there is worse, according to them, is worse
than Sonko.
Yeah. So, but if we could have those institutions, then Sonko will be bad. Whoever wants to come is bad. And it is a clear playing field.
That's true. Anthony,
Yes.
thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you for your call. Have a lovely day. Let's hear from Jane in Nairobi. Good morning, Jane.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. How are you?
Fine, thank you,
Well, thank you.
Morning.
Okay, my request is please invite Chebukati to this show one of these days because I don't know what transcript he's reading from. Because I do have a serious problem with this issue of, nominating or rather, letting these leaders who have integrity issues go to the elections.
Clearing them.
And some of them have serious issues. I was listening to Sheila this morning when she was even saying some of them, the names have been brought forward. And then now they've gone ahead even to accumulate more issues when they get into the positions that they're elected to.
Yep.
Something is seriously wrong. I think the integrity issue is being taken on a very, very light note. And this circle will not end if we continue this way. I feel that Chebukati is hiding behind this clause of that not all avenues have been exhausted.
Yep.
I think it's ridiculous. I mean, as you were saying, in cases, somebody has even been convicted. I mean, they've been sentenced. And just because there's an appeal, no, this can't go on like that. I think we need to be serious on this issue. And also Kenyans need to wake up to the issue of integrity. Let me just quote a case that horrified me, because when you work for some of these international organizations, when you're doing your work, to be gifted by somebody because of doing your job is a problem. I mean, things like Christmas gifts that we are so good at, receiving at the end of Christmas, from our suppliers and whatever. Some organizations, it's a no-go zone. So even to have a senior politician admit that he was gifted some land because of some work he helped somebody do,
a couple thousand acres of a small plot.
I mean, that is horrifying because the guy, he was doing his job. So how do you, accept a gift like that? So we need to be very serious on this thing. And I hope, Wanjiro and her team, will get to sensitize Kenyans on how we need to get these things, so that we stop this whole issue of believing in handouts, because it will never end if we continue bringing back these leaders. Thank you, and do have a lovely day.
You too, Jane. Thank you very much. Issues being raised here. And as you hear, Wanjiro, people are aware, people are agitated, people would support you morally or whichever way you ask for support. Okay? So it's, and I'm not like laying it all on you. I'm just saying that you actually occupy a very unique position, you and the others in civil society. So we will make noise. We here will make noise. We'll do this. We'll highlight the issues. People like Jane, like Juma, like Karanja, like Zachary, like everybody else who calls on this show, they are aware. They talk about it. They want to see change, and they're willing. We've even had people calling here and saying, you know what, just tell us, what do you want? What would you like? Would you like us to contribute? Anthony was asking. Do we need to put together money so that we can support that this happens? Do we to bring in the legislation? Everybody is willing to play their part as long as there's that clarity of where we are heading.
Why do you think there's a national discussion about the Martha effect?
Yes.
In 2002, call it the Kibaki effect. But what was demonstrated during that period is the very thing we're discussing. It isn't as though Kenyans have given up. No. A lot of what we see and what we might even condemn are just coping mechanisms. You look at the situation that you're in, you look at what you have, and you figure, no, I need to be surviving on a daily basis. So, as I said earlier, let me give this priority. But when leadership comes into place and they can see this is credible leadership that can bring about change, they fall in line and follow it meticulously because they know, okay, here, what we've been waiting for has arrived.
Right.
So, the silence or an absence of vocal support doesn't mean that Kenyans don't understand or know what their needs are or don't know what it is that they actually want. They do.
They're frustrated. That's the word.
To the hill.
Frustrated.
They do. Why do you think people keep talking about the former governor of Nairobi? Why do you think that person is that popular? In my mind, he has the uncanny ability to actually understand what a common, simple Mwananchi needs. Now, you can call what he does what you like. There are other politicians exactly like him. But when someone's survival is on a daily basis, daily, as in you wake up and you don't know what's going to happen, but you try. If you find someone who meets your need for that day, that one day, that is somebody you have time for.
Actually, that's something that we need to pay more attention to, because the majority of Kenyans fall into that.
They do.
Into that socioeconomic, into that economic group, and are therefore very malleable at the hands of unscrupulous politicians who will abuse public resources. I mean, the kind of stories around these politicians are horrendous, and how some of them go around extorting businesses. They pretend that they are doing public projects. Those projects are being done again by businesses. So there are a lot of people in the professional class, who really suffer at the hands of these bad leaders. But these leaders then portray themselves as Robin Hood.
Yes, taking from them
for
to
the
give
majority.
to you. Yeah.
So that is what we have to figure out, because the middle class, professional class see it. Because we are one salary away from poverty. And we are paying a lot. We are paying double. We pay for the private service, and we also are taxed heavily. So the professional middle class see it, but we are, in numbers, we are very few. The thing is, how do we reach out to the majority who will throw away? If you watch Softy, the story of Boniface Mwangi's campaign, it's a very, very difficult movie story to watch. It's you really come out respecting what Boniface Mwangi does and what he's been through as an activist. I mean, people criticize all kinds of things, but you'll always have haters. But when he was running in Starehe, towards the end, they told him, and it was women who said, we like you. We know you fight for us. We know you've been with us, but you don't have money. And he lost because of that.
Yeah.
And
But did he actually lose? Look at the votes that he got.
He didn't lose, but he didn't get in.
Yes.
And the person who got in did not fight for their issues.
Just paid.
The person
Paid
who
his
got
way
in
in.
also had integrity issues, very serious ones, that maybe not confirmed, but very serious that have, So you have murderers, drug barons, extortionists.
All of them in public office.
Can you imagine voting in a drug baron or somebody linked to the drug trade? What do you do to the youth of
It's
that
painful.
of that constituency?
Majiro,
Huh?
thank you for coming today.
I'm finishing on that note.
Imagine.
I wanted to finish on a positive note to
Oh,
Simame Imara.
Uh-huh.
Yes, as Anthony has said, when we finish this election, citizen-initiated petition.
Kabisa.
Yes.
To Simame Imara. There's hope. Dongo is asking, guys, I've always been wondering, why does Zachary call City Muga Mwalimu Andrew?
Yeah.
Mwalimu Andrew. Why are you called Mwalimu Andrew?
Actually, I've asked Zachary that question, I remember. And when I asked him, I said lose a whole story.
We'll ask him next time
and
he
he lost
calls.
me somewhere.
Zachary, next
you
time
don't
you
know.
call, tell
actually wondered
everybody.
who else
What
is in the
Mwalimu
room
Andrew?
that I haven't
I can't see under the table.
Have a lovely weekend, folks. Enjoy your weekend. We'll be back on Monday. It's 10 a.m.
The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
President Uhuru Kenyatta has urged the international community to accelerate actions to avert the environmental threats facing the world. The president noted that while over the last 50 years there has been a growing understanding of the grave environmental threats, less progress has been made in designing and implementing bold actions to address the challenge. President Kenyatta was speaking at the opening of the International Environment